No nii, tere hommikust kõigile, mina Are Selge ja lubage mul siis avada tänane konverents. Miks mina, selgus, et EPKK juhatuse esinaine Kerli-Ats on täna ministriga ja kuskil midagi tähtsat avamas. Ja siis paluti, et Are Selge ütleks midagi põllumeestele. Nii, et kui vaadata tänast teemat, mis siis täna meil konverents, millest kõnelema hakkab, keskkonnahoidlik silotootmine, et kas see on siis helesinine unistus või tegelikkus. Eks ta oleks kohe küsimus minule endale ja mina isiklikult arvan, et kui me õigesti planeerime, arvestame ja tegutseme, siis vahel mõnda asja teeme ka teistmoodi. Vaatame, kuidas naabritel läheb, teeme positiivseid, võtame sealt positiivse üle. Siis mina küll arvan, et Eestis võime ütelda, et me teeme juba keskkonnasuutlikut silotootmist. Jah, me teame neid väljakutseid, et sisendite hinnad, vahel need ka päris tihti keeruline hinnata ja prognoosida. Kvaliteetne tööjõud, kunagi pole seda ülearu. Otse loomulikult ilmastik, mida üha enam, mulle tundub nii, on keeruline ette prognoosida. Kõik need on meie väljakutsed ja vahel tundub küll, et helesinine on taevas, aga ilm on hall ja siis, kui on ilus niiduilm, siis tehnika võtab puhkepäeva, nii et juhtub. Selleks aga, et see helesinine unistus, keskkonnahoidlik silotootmine saaks meile standardiks igapäevaseks, minu soovitus, arvamus on, et peaksime keskenduma 3 niinimetatud K-le. Üks on kvaliteet, kulu ja keskkond. Räägime silo kvaliteedist. Me kõik armastame oma silo, tihtipeale nii kaua, kuni jõuab silo analüüs. Proovime teha nii, et pärast seda, kui silo analüüsile pilgu peale viskame, meeldib see silo meil endiselt. Ja silo kvaliteet, see ei ole ainult mitte piimanumber või piimatoodangu number. Mina arvan, et see on siis kajastub ettevõtte kulus keskkonnas ja see on ka põllumehe maine 1 kile all. Ja endiselt ma arvan, et kõige kallim sööt on just nimelt kadunud sööt, kaotsi läinud sööt, et ei olegi tähtis, kas te juhtus meil põllul või aunas või laudas. Excel kannatab kõik, aga lehmad, loomad kahjuks mitte. Kui me räägime kulust, siis iga lisakäik põllul maksab. Iga liigne tund põlluserval maksab. Iga läbimõtlemata või halvasti tehtud investeering maksab. Ja teistpidi jällegi iga kokkuhoitud protsent kadudest teeb meile kohe või toob meile kohe kokkuhoiu. Nii et paneme ka selles osas mõistuse ja energia tööle ja mitte lihtsalt teele. 3. K, keskkond, ülioluline, vähem kadusid, vähem toitainete kadusid, söödas terve muld, puhtam vesi, vähem plasti loodusesse. Meie eesmärk on ju tegelikult toota kvaliteeti minimaalse jalajäljega. Ja siis oleme meie ise rahul, süda on rahul ja meie toodangostlejad on samuti rahul. Ma arvan, et tänane konverents ei keskendu kuidagi sellele, et kes tegi, vaid pigem oleme siin otsimas õppekohti, naabrite kogemusi. Ja kõik temaatilised arutelud, ma usun, et konverentsi modereerib Silja ja annab meile aega ka küsimusteks. Et oleks sisukad küsimused ja mitte alati see, mis väga hästi läks, vaid võid ka rääkida põllumehena sellest, mis nihu läks. Siis me saame teha asju paremini. Tooge näiteid oma tootmispraktikatest. Just nii sünnib parendus. Ja rumalaid küsimusi pole, on vaid kallid vead, seda me teame ka. Ja mina arvan, et kui igaüks meist siit mõne kasuliku näpunäite endaga kaasa võtab, siis on juba täna see üritus korda läinud. Ja selle ürituse korraldamise eest suured tänud loomulikult EPKK-le. Ja see on väga vahva, et siia saali ruumi on toodud kokku teaduse, praktika ja seda just rahvusvahelisel tasandil, sest kui vaatate, praegu te ei vaata midagi, ei näe midagi, aga ettekanded, siis need puhta rahvusvahelised meie naaberriikidest, aga loomulikult ka kodumaalt. Nii et lubage siis kuulutada konverents avatuks ja vähem kadu, rohkem kvaliteeti ja loodame ka, et üha rohkem helesinist taevast on meil niidupäevadel. Ja nüüd annaks edasi siis sõna Siljale. Silja modereerib meie seda toredat üritust läbi päeva ja kindlasti annab ka mõned kasulikud näpunäited lõunasöögi ja küsimuste esitamise kohta ja nii edasi. Aitäh teile!
Nii, suur tänu, Aare, on mind kuulda. Ja EPKK poolt väga suur rõõm on teid kõiki siin meie konverentsil tervitada ja hea vaadata, et saal on peaaegu täis, mõned üksikud kohad on veel vabad, aga inimesi, meil on pikk päev, võib-olla veel liitub isegi päeva jooksul. Minu nimi on Silja Lehtpuu, töötan Eesti Põllumajandus-Kaubanduskojas rahvusvaheliste projektide vedajana ja meie ühine projekt jätkusuutlik silotootmine on üks nendest, mis hakkab nüüd lõppema. Me oleme 3 aastat koos tööd teinud, Eesti, Läti, Soome, silonõustajad, põllumehed, teadlased, eksperdid, palju väga tarku inimesi koos, siis ikkagi on suur tõenäosus, et midagi tarka tuleb ka välja. Meie ajakava on siis selline, et enne lõunat meil on 3 ettekannet, kus me siis Eesti, Läti, Soome siloeksperdid, nõustajad võtavad kokku huvitavamad tähelepanekud, huvitavamad, põnevamad tulemused igast riigist, et omavahel natuke siis kogemusi jagada. Siis on meil planeeritud ka lõunapaus, mis on, kui lähete siit saalist välja, paremale poole, minge sellest järgmisest endist ikkagi edasi, need söögid, mis seal on välja pandud, need ei ole meile. Seda on selgelt liiga vähe meile. Minge veel edasi ja siis seal on meil selline püstijala snäkkidega lõunapaus, et saaks selle kiiremini tehtud. Ja siis me jätkame juba natukene, vaatame tulevikku, et mis on siis need uued teemad, millega me peaksime koos edasi tegelema. Ja siin on meil toodud siis sisse ka Norra vaatenurk ja kogemus. Aga et minna nüüd kohe esimese ettekande juurde, kelleks on siis Kristiina Märs. Kristiina tegutses siis meie projektis Põllumajandus-Kaubanduskoja poolse silonõustajana. Korraldas meie demofarmides erinevaid söödatootmise huvitavaid katseid, oli eestvedajaks põllupäevade korraldamisel ning hea esineja infoseminaridel. Ja siis lisaks igapäevasele põllumeeste nõustamisele on Kristiina nüüd läinud tagasi ka Maaülikooli, kus siis annab oma väärtuslikke teadmisi edasi uue põlvkonna loomakasvatajatele ja teeb ka teadustööd, millest siis ka natuke oma ettekandes räägib. Ja siis lisainfoks ka nii palju, et lisaks Põllumajandus-Kaubanduskojale Eesti poole pealt osalesid siis projektis ka Maaelu Teadmuskeskus, meie spetsialistid Kalvi Tamm, Sirje Tamm, Priit Pehter ja Eesti Maaülikoolis siis ka söötmise valdkonna teadlased Meelis Ots ja Andres Olt. Nii, aga nüüd sõna Kristiinale.
Aitäh Siljale, väga põhjalik sissejuhatus, neid töökohti on tõesti päris mitmeid. Et selle siloga on tegeletud päris põhjalikult nii siin projektis kui ka siis nii-öelda kõrvalt meie tootjate juures. Ja kogemusi on palju, mida tegelikult siis tahakski täna teiega jagada. Et kõigepealt väga lühidalt sellest projektist, millest me siis täna räägime ja mida me võime siis seda seminari või konverentsi nimetada nii-öelda juba lõpukonverentsiks, nagu Silja ütles, siis 3-aastane projekt, detsembrikuus lõpeb. Ja projektis osales siis meil kokku 26 pilootfarmi, kellega koos me siis neid siloteemasid uurisime. Ja tegemist oli siis piiriülese koostööga, et Eestis oli meil siis 10 pilootfarmi, Lätis 10 ja Soomes 6. Ja selle projekti üks põhieesmärkidest oli siis vähendada farmides silomahlade teket kogu tootmisahela vältel. Ja selleks siis viisime läbi erinevaid nii-öelda minikatseid, et siis leida selliseid uuenduslikke keskkonda säästvaid silotootmise tavasid. Ja lisaks siis nendele minikatsetele võeti pilootfarmidest ka väga palju proove, et esiteks mullaproovid, kõige A ja O, siis haljasmassiproove, siloproove. Ühes pilootfarmis õnnestus eelmine aasta ka maisi teraks koristada, need teramaisiproovid. Et neid sai kõvasti analüüsitud ja loomulikult siis õppereisid teiste riikide kolleegide juurde ja praktilised õppepäevad. Ja ma rõhutangi just siin sõna praktilised, sest ma arvan, et see praktika õppepäevade juures on väga-väga oluline. Ja esimesest praktilisest õppepäevast siis rääkides, eelmisel aastal viisime läbi Voores niidutehnika demopäeva. Mõned näod siin on tuttavad, olid niidupäeval ka kohal. Et mis selle niidutehnika demopäeva eesmärk oli siis, et kuna meie projekt on seotud silomahlade vähendamisega, siis kohe kõige esimene punkt on see, et kuidas seda silomahla vähendada, on võimalikult kiire haljasmassi närvutamine. Ja demopäeval siis oligi meie eesmärk näha, et kas me seda närvutamist suudame kiirendada niitmise ja niidutehnika abil. Ja olidki siis mõned küsimused meil püstitatud, et need küsimused on põllumeeste enda käest tulnud, et hästi tihti küsitakse, et millist niidukit osta, millise muljuriga, et kas sõrmmuljur, valtsmuljur, üldse ilma muljurita, et milline on parim. Siis meid kõik huvitab see toortuha sisaldus ehk siis mullasus silos, et kus see tuleb, et kas see sõltub ka valitud niidukist. Ja siis see igavene küsimus, kas kaarutada haljasmassi silopõllul või mitte. Et kas annab meile kiirema närbumise või siis see toob meile üldsegi mulda rohkem silomassi ja tekib saastumine. Ja demopäeval siis osaleski meil 8 niidukite komplekti. Väga võimas väljapanek oli seal põllul ja niitsime siis sellist rohumaad, kus oli siis 50% lutserni, 50 kõrrelisi. Ma ise nimetaks seda tänasel päeval juba Eesti selliseks klassikaliseks rohumaaks. Väga soe päev oli, 28 kraadi, ei tohiks olla mingit probleemi närvutamisega. Ja niite kõrgus siis lasime kõikidel niidukitel 9-10 sentimeetrit teha ja andsime siis põllul haljasmassi kuivamiseks 6,5 tundi aega. Seejärel võtsime siis proovid. Proovides siis analüüsisimegi kuivainet ja teine asi see toortuhk ehk siis mullasus haljasmassis. Ja need proovid siis viisime Maaülikooli söödalaborisse. Et mõned tähtsamad siis järeldused, mida me sellest niidutehnika demopäevast saime teha. Et esiteks, kui meil on soov nii-öelda otse koristada sellist pool lutserni põldu väga soojal päeval, siis peale niitmist otse koristades see kuivaine sisaldus oli 19,8, mis on väga madal. See tähendab niiskust 80%. Et otse koristades meil kohe kindlasti ei ole võimalik neid silomahlasid vältida. Siis on hästi palju küsitud ka, et aga niidan äkki otse vaalu. Osadel niidukitel on see võimalus, et siis ta on juba vaalus olemas ja küll ta seal ka närbub ja siis saab kohe ruttu koristama minna. Et proovisime ühe niidukiga selle variandi ka ära, et otse vaalus siis 6,5 tunni jooksul me saavutasime kuivaine 25,5, mis samamoodi on tegelikult silo valmistamiseks liiga madal. Et see kuivaine võiks ikkagi sinna 30-34 kanti jääda. Ja erinevaid muljureid siis kasutades niidukitel oli meil võimalus siis 6,5 tunni jooksul see nii-öelda 20% niidetud mass närvutada 10-20% punkti võrra kõrgemaks, ehk siis 20 kuivaine pealt isegi kuni 40-ni. Tegime siis ka ühe osa kaarutasime, et vaadata, kas see kaarutamine kiirendab meil seda protsessi. Ja vanad tõed said kinnitust taaskord, et kaarutades me saime lausa 28,9% punkti võrra kõrgemaks selle kuivaine. Et nii kuiva silo meil isegi tegelikult ei ole tarvis. Et see, et me saaks selle silomassi seal põllul võimalikult kiiresti kuivaks, on väga oluline selleks, et seal kulutataks vähem toitaineid ja need toitained jääksid loomale, mitte nendele bakteritele põllul. Ja kaarutatud haljasmassist võtsime ka siis toortuha analüüsid. Ja jällegi sai vana tõde kinnitatud, et tegelikult see kaarutamine ei tõsta mullasust haljasmassis. Aga siin on üks väga tähtis punkt, et ta ei tõsta seda mullasust ainult sellisel juhul, kui see kaaruti on õigesti reguleeritud. Et kui põld on ebatasane, seal on rööpad, kaaruti on väga madalale pandud, siis loomulikult selle lisaliigutusega see saastumine sinna haljasmassi tekib. Et sellepärast alati kaarutama minnes tuleb 10 korda üle kontrollida see olukord, aga kokkuvõtteks silomahlade vähendamiseks ja selle närbumisprotsessi kiirendamiseks oli see kaarutamine väga õiges kohas. Ja kui rääkida sellest, et kui palju neid silomahlasid üldse sealt haljasmassis siis eraldub, et mille vastu me siin võitleme ja miks nad üldsegi halvad on, et üks on see keskkonna aspekt, millele see projekt meil siin keskendus. Aga põllumehe ja tootjana peaks tegelikult mõtlema ka lisaks keskkonnale selle peale, et koos silomahladega uhutakse silost minema väga kasulikud toitained loomale. Et nii proteiin kui ka kuivaine koos selle silomahlaga panevad plehku, sest et see ei ole nagu puhas vesi. Ja sama on siis ka maisisilaga, et maisisilaga ka tärklis paneb meil sealt siloidlast plehku, et sellepärast meil oleks tarvis neid mahlasid vältida. Ja siit ülemisest tabelist siis näetegi, et kui meil on see 20 kuivainega haljasmass, siis 1 tonni haljasmassi kohta eraldub lausa 100-200 liitrit silomahla, mis on tegelikult väga suur kogus. Ja nagu ma ütlesin, siis ka natuke kuivainet koos selle silomahlaga jookseb minema. Et see kuivaine kadu on näha siis siin, et kui me teeme sellise 20 kuivainega silo, siis selline 2% kuivainet koos silomahlaga on meil seal kogumise rennides ja silost läinud. Ja mis oli veel üks huvitav tähelepanek sealt niidutehnika demopäevalt, on see, et kindlasti tasuks niitmisel pöörata tähelepanu niiduvaalu alla. Et tavaliselt vaadatakse lihtsalt kaugelt seda niidetud põldu, et juba ilus näeb kõik välja. Aga nagu ma ütlesin, siis lutserni populaarsus meil järjest suureneb. Ja üleüldiselt on siis teada, et lutsernile sobib paremini valtsidega vaaluti, niiduk, ja kõrrelisele sõrmmuljuriga. Aga kui meil on segud, siis meil ei ole võimalik neid kahte muljurit ühendada. Et võib juhtuda, et kui me seda suure protsendiga lutserni segu läheme sõrmmuljuriga niitma ja see muljur on seadistatud väga agressiivseks, siis need lutserni lehed tulevad lihtsalt lahti ja kukuvad põllule maha. Ja tegelikult, kus see silotoiteväärtus, taimetoiteväärtus on, ta ongi lehtedes, et me jätame selle proteiini maha. Ja tavaliselt, kui põllus seista, siis seal niiduvaalude vahel ei ole seda lutserni lehepuru näha. Aga kui sinna maha kükitada ja seda lutserni sealt pealt nüüd natuke ära tõmmata, siis on näha, mis seal niiduvaalu all toimub. Et ma soovitan seda alati põllul jälgida. Et osadel niidukitel on võimalus seda muljuri agressiivsust sättida või siis üldse välja lülitada. Et meil on ka täna päris palju rohumaid, kus me kasvatamegi juba puhast lutserni 100%. Et sellisel juhul ilma muljurita niita on kindlasti parem kui sellise muljuriga, mis need lehed taime küljest eemaldab ja jäävad ainult need rootsud, millel ei ole tegelikult looma jaoks väga mingisugust toiteväärtust. Et seda tulemust seal niidu põllupäeva nüüd kuidagi dokumenteerida või kirja panna või mõõta, tegelikult ei olnud võimalust, et selline vaatlustulemus. Et sellepärast nendel, kes soovivad juba väga suures koguses lutserni kasvatada niita, siis ikkagi valtsmuljur on soovitatav. Et rohusilal seda kuivainet siis reguleerida on suhteliselt lihtne, et niidame ja närvutame ja ootame. Aga kuidas maisiga? Et maisi me koristame ju otse. Et maisi koristame otse, aga maisil on ka üks väga hea võimalus, kuidas seda kuivainet paika saada, on koristuskõrgus. Ja sellepärast selle projekti raames üks selline minikatse oligi meil maisi koristuskõrgusega. Et see käis siis niimoodi, et mina käsitsi läksin, lõikasin põllust 10 taime, lõikasin nad 25 sentimeetri. Lõikasin nad 25 sentimeetri kõrguselt ja järgmised 10 taime siis 45 sentimeetri kõrguselt. Ja need 10 ja 10 siis sidusin punti, viskasime silokombani leedris sisse ja kõik, mis sealt välja tuli 10 taimest, oligi siis üks proov. Ja sama siis sealt kõrgemalt võetud taimedega. Nii et sort on sama, põld on sama, ilm on sama, väetus on sama, kõik on sama. Ja siis viisime need proovid analüüsimisel, et näha, kuidas see toite väärtus siis selles haljasmassis muutub, kui me seda niitekõrgust muudame. Ja sellel aastal meil ei olnud vaja saada kuivemat maisisila, oli isegi kuiv aasta. Aga see teadmine kulub meil eriti ära tänavu, kes praegu veel maisi teevad ja see on märg. Et kõrgemalt maisi koristades 20 sentimeetrit koristuskõrgust tõstes andis meile siin katses 9,3% parema kuivaine. Et see 44,6 on juba isegi nagu liiga kuiv, nii kuiva maisisila isegi pole vaja. Et sellepärast ma ütlengi, et see teadmine kulub ära just praegu, kui see maisi vars võib-olla on liigselt mahla täis. Tuhasust saime sellega alandada, et tõstsime niitekõrgust. Ja üks kõige olulisemaid näitajaid maisisilas, miks me teda üldse kasvatame tärklis. Et see, et me tõstsime 20 sentimeetrit koristuskõrgust, meil õnnestus 117 grammi kilogrammis kuivainest tärklist sinna silosse rohkem saada. Ja jällegi põld sama, sort sama, kõik sama. Lihtsalt selles silas on 0,2 megajouli energiat nüüd rohkem, sellepärast, et me koristasime ta kõrgemalt. Et see on üks selline hea trikk, mida sellisel kehval ja märjal aastal teha. Ja kui te nüüd mõtlete, et ma jätan ju, kui ma koristan 45 sentimeetrit, et see maisi tüü, mis põldu jääb, et seda on ju päris palju, et mida see maisitüü sisaldab ja millest ma ilma jään. Siis ühel teisel põllul me analüüsisime ka seda tüüd eraldi. Ja nagu näha, siis selle tüü kuivaine sisaldus on kuskil 16-17%. See tüü ongi see märja silo allikas, et need silomahlad ongi maisil seal varre alumises osas. Ja kui me selle varre alumise osa, mida rohkem me teda maha jätame koos selle silomahlaga, seda kuivema silo me saame. Ja nüüd need, kes on sellised väga majanduslikult kalkuleerivad, kohe küsiks, et aga siis ma jään ju osast haljasmassidest ja tonnidest nii-öelda söödast ju ilma. Siis jah, kui ma kui ma maisi koristuskõrgust tõstan 20 sentimeetri võrra, siis ilmselgelt, aga võtsin siis need maisitüüd koju kaasa. Tiks aega lõikasin sealt siis välja need 20 sentimeetrised vahejupid, kaalusin ära, arvutasin siis välja hektari peale. Et hektari peale siis see saagikuse erinevus on 3,43 tonni hektari kohta. Aga siin analüüsi tulemuses on ka siis näha, et mida see 3,43 tonni sisaldab, millest me nii-öelda ilma jääme. Et kui me vaatame seda tüü energiasisaldust, see on 6,9 megatšauli ja selles korralikus maisi osas on 11,2. Et siis ma võin küll väita, et tegelikult see on selline tühi ballastaine, mille me jätame sinna põllule maha. Ja samas ei tasu mõelda, et see on kuidagi raisus materjal, sellepärast, et see on ikkagi orgaanika põllule 3,43 tonni hektarile ja see on toiduks mullabakteritele ja see on seal nagu väga, ma arvan, õiges kohas. Palju õigemas, ma arvan, kui lehma seedesüsteemis. Nii. Ja see number 1 küsimus tegelikult jätkub pinnakihi riknemisega. Et üks asi on meil see, kui meil kogu silo rikneb, väga halb loomulikult, aga meil on palju probleeme ka sellega, et pinnakiht rikneb. Ja mina ütlen, et siin on üks väga lihtne lahendus kasutada linnuvõrke. Ja rõõm oli ka projektis näha, et järjest rohkem pilootfarme Eestis ka neid linnuvõrke kasutama hakkasid. Ja siin pildi peal mul ongi toodud üks hea näide, kui ma läksin keset talve siloproovi võtma. Ja nägin, et oi, poisid hakkavad silo lahti võtma, et kile pealt on ilusti kuidagi lumi eemaldatud, ei tea, mis masinaga nad seda tegid. Ja kui ma lähemale läksin, siis ma nägin, et see masin oligi linnud, et linnud olid kilesse teinud augud, hapnik sisse pääsenud ja silos on see kuumenemisprotsess olnud nii intensiivne, et see lumi lihtsalt sulab sealt kile pealt ära. Ja selle nii-öelda kuumenemisega ka jälle toitaine kaod. Ja see pinnakihi riknemine. Ja selle konkreetse silo puhul siis kuni 40 sentimeetrit oli see pind riknenud lindude tõttu. Arvutasin selle silo suuruse ja selle riknemise pinna siis kokku, et 241 tonni selle sama ühe silo peale tuli ära visata. Tegemist oli maisisiloga, võtame siis kuskil 50 eurot on tonn, et 12 000 ühe ainukese silo peale tegelikult nii-öelda riknenud silo, et see on tegelikult väga suured summad, mis siin mängus on. Ja siis tabasin ennast sellest mõttelt, et kui meil need linnud seal teraviljapõllul on, siis see häirib tegelikult kõiki põllumehi ja nendega on väga raske võidelda. Ei olegi tegelikult väga head vahendid, kuidas neid linde sealt teraviljapõllult ära saada. Aga huvitav on see, et kui need linnud silohoidla peal on 12 000 eurot iga silohoidla peale peab ära viskama, siis see millegipärast häirib ainult osasid. Kuigi see on nagu, seal on konkreetne nii-öelda tegevus taga, mida me saaksime teha, et seda vältida. Et selleks ongi 2 linnuvõrku ja nagu näete, siis ega need hinnad ei ole ka nii tohutu kõrged ja need on korduvkasutatavad. Nii et kindlasti soovitan kasutada. Ja kui juhtubki, et see pinnakiht rikneb, siis tuleb see kindlasti sealt silo pealt eemaldada. loomade tervise seisukohalt ülioluline. Aga väga tihti ma kuulen ettevõtetes, kuidas siis traktoristid ütlevad, et tore on, et tuleb eemaldada, aga mul ei ole selleks ju masinat. Et mis masinaga ma selle sealt eemaldan? Ja siis mulle meeldib näidata neile seda pilti, see on mul kohe telefonis olemas alati. Et see on päris suur siloidle, seal on 5000 tonni silo sees. See on väga kõrge ja see riknev pinnakihi eemaldamise masin on siin, selle nimi on hang ja sellega saab ilusti, kui siit saab eemaldatud, siis saab eemaldatud ka 800 tonniselt ja 1000 tonniselt hoidlalt selle riknev pinnakihi. Mõned näited siis ka sellest, kuidas siis kasutada neid võrke. See esimene pilt siin on minu lemmik, sest minu soovitus on alati rehvid silo peale panna niimoodi reast riibuna, mitte niimoodi meelevaldselt üks sinna teine tänna visata. Et see on just sellepärast, et kui nüüd juhtub, et tuleb mingi lind, maandub siia ja kuidagi ikkagi nokib see augu sisse, see tähendab seda, et see hapnikuga riknemine tekib ainult nende kahe rehvi vahealas, mitte see hapnik ei lähe siis mööda tervet seda ala seal laiali. Ja see sinine linnuvõrk, et see tuleb ka alati pingule tõmmata ja see aitab tegelikult väga hästi. Ja siin on siis kasutatud veel ühte trikki, et see kile on tõmmatud üle siit selle äravoolu, silomahlade äravoolu renni, just sellepärast, et vältida seda, et lumesulamisveed ja ka siis vihmaveed kogutakse siia renni ja lähevad sinna silomahladega ühte kohta, et see silomahlade kogumine on mõeldud tegelikult ainult silomahladele. Siis Soome kolleegide juurest on hea näide, nad teevad päris palju tunnelsilo, muljutud teravilja ka tunnelisse, et see lindudele eriti meeldib. Siis siin on selline jõhv pandud 2 poole äärte ja siia tunneli peale ka siis kaks jõhvi, et rehvidesse on pandud siis kruvid, kuhu ümber siis jõhv on kinnitatud ja ütlevad, et töötab väga hästi. Ja mina ise mõtlen, et seda annaks võib-olla meil rullisilodel kasutada, kui meil on rullisilod reas, et samamoodi proovida äkki nende lindude vastu, kes Soomes on, äkki Eestis ka toimib. Ja üks pilt siis Eestist, selline elkur materjalist öökull, aga ütlen kohe ära, et kui te ostate selle öökulli, siis see ei tööta. Siia peab ise paigaldama rohelised teibid ja alles siis hakkab tööle ja alles siis need linnud hakkavad seda öökulli kartma. Et miks see roheline teip seal on oluline nende jaoks, keegi ei oska öelda. Nii, teine siis küsimus, mis pilootfarmeritel oli, kuidas silokultuur optimaalselt väetada. Ja siia siis käib nii rohumaa kui mais, et rohumaade väetamine järjest populaarsem. Projekti raames võtsime ka siis rohumaadelt mullaproome 42 tükki. Ja üks asi, mis me siis leidsime, on fosfori vajadus, oli kõrge või väga kõrge 14 proovis ja madal või väga madal 21 proovis. See näitab meile, et neid proove, kus see fosfor meil korras oli tegelikult ikkagi vähemuses. Pooltel proovidest oli paigast ära ka fosfori ja kaaliumi tasakaal ja 6 proovis oli mulla pH liiga madal ja need põllud vajasid lupjamist. Ja põhiline soovitus ongi alati nii maisil kui rohusilol kasutada siis mitmekülgset väetamist, see tähendab nii orgaanika kui mineraalväetisega. Et siit projektis siis 2023. aastal me tegime ka väikese väetuskatse maisiga. Et rajasime maisipõllu, kuhu panime 30 kuupmetrit vedelsõnnikut, 150 kilo aksanit ja ühele osale põllust siis panime juurde ka 400 kilogrammi EPKK-d. Et näha, kas see 400 kilo EPKK-d annab meile selle parema tulemuse vau-efekti. Ja samamoodi võtsime siis proovid mõlemalt põllu osalt. Analüüsisime ja mis me siit leidsime on see, et see põhinäitaja tärklis No ütleme ausalt, et tegelikult siin nagu väga suurt muutust ja eriti ratsiooni ja loomade koha pealt ei ole. Et need on ikkagi suhteliselt samad. Sama on ka energia, sama on ka seeduvus. Mis juhtus oli see, et need taimed EPKK kasvasid 10-15 sentimeetrit kõrgemaks. Et tegelikult me väga väikese nii-öelda saaki saame juurde, aga kas on väärt seda 400 kilot EPKK hinda, siis see on nagu küsimärk. Sest tegelikult juba nõukogude ajal öeldi, et anna maisile väetist nii palju, kui sul raha on, nii palju, kui torust tuleb, mais kasvatab kõik ära. Aga see väike minikatse meil tegelikult näitas, et see ei anna meile seda nii-öelda boonusefekti. Ja siin ongi siis hea välja tuua, et sellest projekti minikatsest kasvas edasi suurem plaan. Keskendusin rohkem sellele maisi väetusele. Hakkasin tegema suuremalt katseid. Rõõm on tõdeda, et tänavu ka Maaülikooli lüsimeetri põllul on maisi väetuskatse. Et siin väike pilt siis kasvuhooajast, millised need maisitaimed seal välja nägid. Ja kui te mõtlete, et mis see lüsimeetri põld on, paljud ei ole seal käinud, siis see on üks selline huvitav põld. Üks hetk. Tahaks ilma videot, et ei saagi. Et see on üks selline huvitav põld, kuhu siis kuskil meetri sügavusele on rajatud torustike süsteem ja kõik läbi leostuvad sademeveed püütakse kinni, mõõdetakse ja sealt saab siis võtta ka proove, analüüse, vaadata, mida see leostunud vesi sisaldab, mis toitaineid, kui palju, mis ajahetkel seal see leostumine toimub. Et siis meil ongi seal 4 erinevat väetusvarianti ja üleeile sai just koristatud see mais sealt, läks laborisse. Et me näeme, kuidas need erinevad väetusvariandid on siis mõjutanud seda haljasmassi toiteväärtust ja siis saame uurida ka neid veeproove, mis sealt läbi läksid ja lisaks siis ka mullaproov. Ja seal lüsimeetri põllu otsas on siis selline kelder, kuhu siis kuhu on pandud siis need loendurid ja kus me saame siis neid proove võtta. Igal väetusalal on siis 4 tuubeldatud ruudukest, kus need veeproovid tulevad ja need on meil nüüd nii-öelda kokku kogutud, ootavad analüüsimist. Et need proovid võeti siin peale külvamist, läks nädal mööda ja siis juhtus meil selline asi, et meil need sadusid siin Tartumaal oli nii palju, et meil tegelikult see kelder oli seal päris nagu vett täis, ütleme nii. Et see ilmestab väga hästi seda tänavust liigniiskust, et päris mitu korda pidi seda vett sealt keldrist välja tõmbama. Nii, mida me veel projektist siis õppisime? Õppisime siis rohumaadel juurekava ja mulda hindama, mida me tegelikult Eesti rohumaadel väga, mina julgen öelda, teinud ei ole varem. Soomes see on täiesti tavaline praktika, et nõustaja läheb koos labidaga põllule, just mitte teraviljapõllule, vaid rohumaale. Ja käisin seal õppimas Anuga koos. Anuga esineb meil täna päeva teises pooles, nii et kuulake hoolega, kuidas nad seda teevad. Esiteks, miks me siin niimoodi upakil kõik oleme, on see, et mulla lõhnad, teine on mulla agregaadid, kuidas juurekava läheb ja milline see juur seest välja näeb. Et tegelikult siin Eestis olengi avastanud, et miks meil see lutsern võib-olla talvitu läheb välja, on see, et meil on lutsern juurekavas näha päris palju tegelikult fusarioosi. Ja kui see ala on siin fusarioosist nüüd niimoodi mõjutatud, siis siit peakski tulema kevadel uued kasvupungad, aga nad ei tule ja see lutsern lõpetab oma elu ja siis me arvamegi kõik, et see seeme oli nii kehv. Aga tegelikult need taimed on haiged, et sellepärast soovitan kindlasti vaadata juurekava ka. Ja mainisin enne siis, et meil olid ka väljasõidud, mis olid väga toredad. et 2023 käisid siis Läti ja Soome põllumehed meil Eestis külas. Siis meie lätlased käisime 24 Soomes ja nüüd 2 nädalat tagasi siis käisid farmerid Lätis. Ja need väljasõidud on ka just sellepärast väga huvitavad olnud, et need on praktilised ja need ongi teiste põllumeeste kogemustest õppimine, mitte lihtsalt sellist kuiva teooriat minna kuulama teise riiki, vaid just näha, kuidas meie naabrid põllul toimetavad. Et need on väga, väga põnevad olnud. Ja 12. september oli meil siis Maaülikoolis kestlik silotootmise infopäev, kus me siis näitasime seda lüsimeetri põldu, seda uut robotit, samuti siis huvitavat tehnikat, et aitäh, kes sinna tulid. Ma arvan, see oli ka päris huvitav põllupäev. Ja kes täpsemalt tahab siis lugeda nende minikatsete kohta, siis neid on päris mitu tükki läbi viidud, et siit slaidilt, ma arvan, neid pärast jagatakse, leiate need tulemused. Ja siis kõige lõpetuseks ma tahaks tutvustada meie seda töörühma, et käisime Saaremaa tootjatel külas, et siin on siis näha see töörühm, kuhu kuuluvad Eesti, Läti ja Soome eksperdid, kellega koos me seda projekti siis 3 aastat teinud oleme. Et aitäh neile ja aitäh kuulamast.
Nii, suur tänu, Kristiina. Et me oleme natuke vahest üle läinud, aga võtame mõned küsimused, aga Kristiina, me siin, eks ole, 2 päeva ja ka konverentsi lõppu, nii et kui kellelgi on nagu üks ühele tahab oma ettevõtte seisukohalt midagi küsida, siis meil on lõunapaus ja ka peale konverentsi ja siis Kristiina leiab sealt raamatukogust ka.
Ja ma seal Inno alal istun, et homme olen seal, homme leiate mind seal.
Külastage. Aga on praegu, kui ma küsin esimesena ka, et aga mis nüüd tuli koostööst põllumeestega välja mingi nagu uus teema, mida peaks edasi nagu uurima, nii sa oled ka natuke see peast teadlane,
no neid teemasid, neid tuli nagu Vändrast saelaudu, ütleme nii, et terve märkmik on täis, ma ei tea, kes need kõik ära uurib nüüd. Aga ma tõin välja siin praegu selle maisiväetuse, et millega tuleb kindlasti edasi minna. Mul oli slaide liiga palju, ma ei jõudnud näidata, et tegelikult me 100 ala maisiväetuskatsest tänavu saime ka 0 variandiga täpselt samasuguse tulemuse nagu läga ja mapiga. Nii et kui me ei pannud üldse läga ega mineraalväetist, siis silmaga ei ole midagi aru saada, et need taimed oleks teistmoodi, et miks see nii on, siis minu isiklik arvamus on see, et midagi on seal mullas. Et see mulla tervis, mulla mikrofloora, kuidas seda põldu on haritud, et seal on see tähtis komponent, mitte see lämmastik. Ja ma arvan, et nende mulla teemadega tuleb kindlasti jätkata ja mul on hea meel, et tegelikult täna siin EPA-messil on ka väga palju neid mulla seminare, et ma kavatsen ise ka sellele teemale kindlasti rohkem keskenduda.
Aitäh. Nii on saalist. Ja kohe tuleb mikrofon üks hetk. Muidu meie tõlgid ei kuule.
Kadri olen. Tere, Kristiina.
Tere, kursuse kaaslane.
Tegelikult on nüüd küsimus selles, et kas meil Eestis uuritakse, on plaanis uurida ja on hetkel võimekus olemas mulla ja eelkõige just rohumaa selle mikroelu uurimiseks. Et ma saaks ka jälgida seda, et kui ma muudan oma praktikaid karjamaal või rohumaal, siis kuidas minu mulla tervis muutub?
Et tõepoolest, ega nagu ma ütlesin, meil rohumaal ega karjamaal neid proove ei ole tehtud, aga minu isiklik lootus on pandud teraviljakasvatajatele, keda siin saalis on ka täna väga palju, et neid teraviljapõlde, seda mulla elustikku tegelikult meil on juba, ma julgen öelda, ette ja taha uuritud. Et lihtsalt neid alustuseks samu meetodeid kasutada ka rohumaal, aga lihtsalt neid huvilisi põllumehi, kes tahaksid oma rohumaade tervisest rohkem teada, et ma ootaks nüüd seda kätemerd, et kui põllumeeste seas on need huvilised olemas, siis leida ka välislaborid, see ei ole, ma arvan, mingi küsimus, et need samad meetodid alguses ja siis sealt edasi lähme juba peenhäälestusega.
Aitäh! Nii, suur tänu. Nii, aga me lähme nüüd oma siloteekonnal naabrite juurde Lätti. Et lavale tuleb Iveta Gutmane, agronoom, pikaajalise kogemusega Läti põllumeeste nõustaja ja ka siin meie projektis tegeles demo farmeritega. Koostöös siis Läti farmerite parlamendiga, kes oli meie hea projektipartner. Ja lisaks siis olid nõustajatena Lätist veel minu teada kaasatud Peeter Stambergis, Jeeva Krakupa ja Iveta Grudovska. Aga siis Iveta Gutmane räägib siis oma tähelepanekutest Läti poole pealt.
Thank you. Okay, it's working. My name is Iveta Gutmane, as presented. I am agronomist in company Latvijas Šķirnes Sēklas. If you translate it directly, it means Latvian variety seeds. And you understand the main part of our business is grass seed production. From very beginning, with seed multiplication on field till the final product for farmers, for customers, certified seeds and it mixtures. Great part of our activities is research, trials, investigations, and farmers' consultations. We offer a wide range of products with single species seeds and different kind of mixtures, mixtures for forage, mixtures for amenity, for green manure, and catch crop mixtures. In our research, we focus not only on our product testing, but also we try to find answers on questions coming from farmers, coming from practical life. And such a question is reason for our latest research, and this research fits very well in this silage project. Okay. This project, as you know, is about silage, about good quality silage, and to get it, of course, you need good grassland. And the first step to reach it is sowing. You need good sowing material, good mixture, and use appropriate agrotechnique. Today's topic is about sowing. 3 years ago, farmers approached to us with a question about seeding rates. It was very interesting for me because we all know sowing rates, but they explained that some representatives of some European countries suggest them use very high seeding rates, like 50 till 60 kilograms per hectare for establishing of good forage field. When I visited Holland, I saw it with my own eyes. They use not only 60 kilograms, but 80 kilograms of perennial ryegrass. And here we do not talk about mixtures what consists annual grasses. Here we talk about mixtures with perennial grasses. Shocking. What we know about seeding rates? The standard seeding rates, I hope all you know it, is approximately 20-30 kilograms per hectare for cutting. It is for silage or for hay production, depending on the mixture's content or this possible way of use. And higher rates are for grazing mixtures, 30-35 kilograms per hectare. If you use annual ryegrass as cover crop, use this amount of annual ryegrass. Usually it is 12 till 15 kilograms per hectare. You plus this to this perennial seed mixture, and totally you sow approximately 40 till 50 kilograms per hectare. But the basic perennial mixture is, on average, we say 30 kilograms per hectare if we need one number. Where does this seeding rates comes from? It comes from grassland science. It says that for obtaining good quality forage sward, you need approximately 1,000 germinating seeds per square meter. In this table, you see the average 1,000 seed weights for different species of grass seeds, what we usually use in our Baltic countries. And it is very easy to calculate how many kilograms per hectare you need to reach these 1,000 seeds per square meter. Something not going. I need to push a little bit better. And now, what will be if we will increase seeding rate? It seems if we will have more plants on our acreage, it will be more tillers, and we could expect higher yield and maybe better quality as well. Is it really so? And if it is so, then does it mean that smaller seeding rate leads to lower yield and lower maybe quality? What does grassland science says about this point? This is a question how plants use growing space. Relationship between sward density and tiller size, or in our case it is weight because we weight our forage, has been established a long time ago, and it already have a name, size density compensation. It means when you have higher sward density, it is more tillers. These tillers will be finer or lighter at the same time. And finally, no significant yield increase will be obtained. And so, in 2003, we established the trial in 3 replications using randomized block design to exclude soil heterogeneity factor. And sorry, I didn't write. in slide, we use the same fertilization for all fields. Nitrogen 90 kilograms per hectare and phosphorus 34 and potassium 112. This fertilization was based on soil analysis. And we use 3 seeding rates. We start from 30 kilograms per hectare, what is optimal seeding rate for mixtures, then increase to 45 and 60 kilograms per hectare. Farmers come to me with questions, what is the optimal legume content in mixtures? Of course, all we know, we have these eco schemes which requires 50% of legume. But what will be if farmer wants to do the best? Maybe it is better to put 60, 70 or maybe 80% of lucerne. And this was the reason why we put a second factor in our trials. We put different content of lucerne, 30, 50 and 70%. And in all mixtures we include red clover 5% and white clover 5%. And grasses, typical for Baltic countries, Timothy, meadow fescue, festuloleum and perennial ryegrass in equal parts. Maybe you will have question why in this silage mixture or mixture for cutting we include white clover. Of course, this is small extra because white clover adds very good forage quality and it makes very nice this lower layer to prevent weed establishment. But no, we wanted to test it the best. And now about results. Yes, we are talking about results of first year of sward use. It is about results of 2024. Annual dry matter yield results confirm Grassland Science thesis that increase of seeding rate do not provide increase in dry matter yield. We do not find lucerne content influence on dry matter yield as well. These results little bit disappointed us because we all know that including legumes in mixtures contribute to better dry matter yields. But in our case, we start from quite high level of legume content. It is 30% of lucerne plus 10% of clovers. It is totally 40% of legumes in mixture. This thesis about yield increase with adding legumes in mixtures more fits to mixtures with very low legume content or to mixtures without legumes. And when you put legumes, the yield is increasing. Looking on dry matter yield distribution between cuts, we see successive dry matter yield decrease among cuts. And it is typical in Baltic countries, especially in dry summers. And I remember the last year was hot and dry. We analyze sward botanical composition and we see successive legume content increase during the vegetation period. And it is also typical for Baltic countries because we have cool springs and in such temperature grasses grow better as legumes. But here we see one very important thing. for me. These results prove my old practice that to include red or only clovers at least 5% in mixtures with lucerne. This is my strict requirement. Even farmers do not want the clovers in mixtures. Why so strict requirement? It comes from my practical experience, but now I have these very nice figures and very nice numbers. As I mentioned, in Baltic countries, we have cool springs and sometimes the beginning of summer as well. And lucerne is very sensitive to such weather conditions, especially at first year of sward use. And second reason is our soils are not uniform. We have in the fields some sandy spots or spots with lower pH, with lower acidity, and clovers are not so sensitive to this factor as lucerne. And finally, farmers are grateful to me that I force them to add the clover, because at the first cut, at the first year of sward production, they have good yields with good quality. And during the vegetation period, of course, lucerne overgrow and the field looks like a mixture with lucerne. About quality. We do not find any seeding rate influence on crude protein content, but we see that crude protein content in mixtures with 30% of lucerne are lower in comparison with mixtures with 50 and 70%. Analyzing crude protein content at different cuts, we see that crude protein content in first cut are significantly lower than in following cuts. But here we do not see any seeding rate influence in every single cut. But what we see, it is influence of lucerne content proportion in mixture on crude protein content in first cut grass. We see successive increasing of crude protein content. And this is a quite important factor, because if you remember about yield distribution between cuts, you get your biggest part of your forage from first cut. And in this case, the quality of this forage is quite important. Digestibility of dry matter. Again, we do not find any relationship between seeding rate and digestibility. We saw slight decrease of digestibility in mixtures with higher percentage of lucerne in content. And analyzing quality and digestibility between cuts, we see that digestibility at the first cut is lower than in following cuts. Very similar results about dry matter intake. no influence of seeding rate on dry matter intake. And here we do not find influence of lucerne content on dry matter intake. But we see, again, differences between cuts. At the first cut, the dry matter intake was higher in comparison with following cuts. Here I present you only these two analysis of quality. We make a lot of parameters of quality. As you know, dry matter intake is negatively correlated with nitrogen detergent fiber, and digestibility is negatively correlated with acid detergent fiber. And if I show these results, these other results are just opposite. And now conclusions about this first harvest year. At first, seeding rate and lucerne proportion in mixture did not influence dry matter yield. There is no significant influence of seeding rate on the quality. We saw minimal influence of increasing proportion of lucerne on some parameters of quality, but the main aspect is that increase of lucerne in mixture contributes to crude protein content increase, especially at first cut. I don't know what will be in next harvest year. It is just harvested and we do not have results. How this proportion of lucerne will influence quality for next years, this we will see later. But already at this moment, we can say that cutting factor is the main factor what influence dry matter yield and dry matter quality. And in our trials, I remind you, we use 4 cuts per season. It is quite big number for us, for Baltic countries. But for mixtures with lucerne, we should try to reach this number of cuts. If the number of cuts is lower, 2 or 3, the results could be different. It means cutting time, cutting schedule very influence the dry matter yield and quality. And I always remind to farmers, if you delay your cut for 3 days, you will lose all benefits what you get from excellent seed mixture or your previous work involved in your field. And one more very important thing written here in red. In this trial, we compare optimal seeding rates with increased seeding rates. These results do not allow you to decrease seeding rates. This is not about this topic. For such conclusions, we need another trials. Please, because when I started to talk about these results in Latvia during this year, I already hear some companies who have very expensive seeds, they say, oh, it is not important to use 30 kilograms per hectare, you can put less, you will have the same results. No. We need results to do like this. And now, if we return back to our first question, I a little bit transform it. do the higher rate in comparison with optimal seeding rate leads to higher yields and to better quality? The answer is no. And now we are going to our silage project. The farms involved in silage project was very different in Latvia, and the reason of it is different mixtures used in this silage project. There, of course, most popular was mixtures with what is in agreement with eco-scheme's requirement with legumes more than 50%, and the rest of mixtures was different for cutting and grazing, or only for grazing and do some cuts just uniform the fields. But one of the most popular mixture or similar to this mixture content zaļai zemei N1, number N1. It is coming from nitrogen. We put this name nitrogen because it's going together with nitrogen fixation. It meets this eco-scheme requirements. This mixture is appropriate for different types of soils, especially for soils with not so good pH, with acidity at 5. Of course, farmer, I say it is bad to use legumes on soils with acidity 4.5 pH, but farmers did it. This mixture is mainly for silage production, but you could do grazing on it on aftermost, first cut for silage, and then to graze aftermost. In our project, just one sheep farmer grazed this field, and I was very surprised, not about sheep, but about this mixture on field. I asked what the clover says for such sheep invasion on this, but he answered, no problem. We do our not overseeding, but renovating of our field every 4 or 5 years. And for 4 years, it is very good, such mixture, and it tolerates sheep grazing as well. And this mixture is very good for organic farms because a lot of legumes what improves the soil content. A second mixture, very similar, but with lucerne. This mixture was based for mixture content in our trials, and you see here is red clover as well. We skip out here white clover to make the price of mixture little bit attractive for farmers, and I am not talking about this mixture because we discuss about similar mixture before. And other very popular mixture in Latvia is P2. It is coming from cutting mixtures with red clover 27% and grasses. It tolerates to different types of soils. It do not require very good soils with good pH, and it is for approximately 2-3 years of use, and it is high yielding and very good performing. Oh, sorry, forgot. I wanted to say you about this mixture. As you see, we here again show seeding rate 30 kilograms per hectare. Why 30 kilograms per hectare and not 20-25 kilograms per hectare as we put here in mixture with red clover? The reason for this is seeds of lucerne. In the European market, we usually have lucerne seeds treated with rhizobium. What does it mean? It means from your seed amount, approximately 30% is this treatment, and you have less seeds. If you will decrease the seeding amount to 25 or 20 kilograms, it will not be enough for good field establishment. The decrease of seeding rate is appropriate only in that case that you use lucerne without treatment. But it is very bad. I suggest to farmers always use lucerne treated with rhizobium, because lucerne is not our native plant, and rhizobium for lucerne, these bacteria are not in our soils. Yeah, okay, we can finished. Just I will not talk about other mixtures. If you are interested, you could find it in our website, and we have very nice tool in our website for finding mixtures for your needs. You just answer on some questions what will appear, and they will advise what mixture you should use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iveta. Few questions also. Kristiina, yeah. You can ask in English directly, easier.
Thank you for a very nice presentation. It was very informative for Estonian farmers also. But I would like to ask about Latvian farmers, like regular practice. If you use alfalfa in your seeding mixtures, do you use only one variety, or you use several different varieties in one mixture together?
Now I should answer. Very good question. Yes, we use one. In these regular mixtures, we use one variety. And sorry, I didn't say. In our trials, we use variety Gea. It is very well known in all over Europe and in Baltic countries as well. Why we do not use our local Latvian varieties? As I mentioned, our trials are for farmers. And our local varieties, we do not have enough seeds to give for all farmers. This is the reason why we tested variety, which seeds are enough in market to offer farmers. Different varieties we put in special mixtures. It is agreement with farmers, then we discuss, and then we put different varieties. And now it is new tendency in Europe to prefer mixture of lucerne, what include different varieties of lucerne with different dormancy number. But I guess it is another lecture.
Hi, thank you. Nice presentation. Elin from Norway. I have two questions. One is about, you said something about the eco scheme. Mm-hmm. Could you explain what that is for something? You said that the N1 and the N3 mixtures were mostly used for those ones. And then another one, I can take the second question at once. How kind of the total grass area in Latvia, is it the P2 which is mostly used, or is it the N1 and the N3? Could you say something about the approximately the division, how much used are those mixtures?
it's not for you because it is this eco schemes is for European Union. The farmers get subsidizing if they put in their fields the mixture with 50% of legume. It is more complicated this headline, but we just use this for simplicity, these eco schemes. And nitrogen 1. Yes, due to these eco schemes, it's sharply coming more popular and more popular. But not all farmers are going for it, and we can say it is half and half. Of course, I could not say for all territory of Latvia. I can talk about what is going in our market and what we see, how these mixtures we sell, and I could say half on half, because not all farmers use these eco schemes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Little present. Ja nüüd siis viimane ennelõunane ettekanne. Saara Nikander ja Anna Okkonen tulevad meile siis rääkima Soome Maaelu Nõuandekeskuse ProAgria Lääne-Soome piirkondlikust esindusest. Ja siis nemad tegelesidki meie projektis siis Soome demofarmeritega, keda oli siis 6, korraldasid ka põllu- ja infopäevi ja täna on siis valmis tutvustama oma tähelepanekuid ja huvitavaid siis tulemusi koostöös Soome põllumeestega. Ja siis lisan juurde, et lisaks siis oli Soomest meie koostöösse haaratud ka Soome Loodusvarade Instituut ehk Luke, kus siis olid meil head eksperdid Mark Ettarinne, Marcia Franco ja Nisola Janfe. Aga siis palun.
Hello everyone, my name is Saara and I'm going to tell you about silage production in Finland. And I have been part of this project since the beginning of this year after Anu, and I have worked with Anna, and we have had very nice time during this year. And as you can see, there's a picture of us in Sudangras field in Latvia, where we visited last week. So 35% of Finland's utilized agricultural area is grassland, and that there is 6,000 hectares of area for silage production. And last year, total cutted area for silage was 470,000 hectares. Average silage yield was 70.5 tons per hectare, and total silage output was 8,400 million kilograms. And the average dry matter yield is 6,000 tons, and good farmers can produce up to 10 tons dry matter per hectare. And most commonly, the silage is harvested as wilted grass. And Finland is covered with grass, and although Finland is very long land, it is possible to cultivate grass in the whole area. And the most important part for grass cultivation is west side of Finland and eastern parts also. And there is located the most biggest dairy and beef cattle farms. And in the east part of Finland, it's more suitable for crop cultivation. And here is a picture of 3 different cities in Finland, and these pictures shows how the D value is developed during summer, and D value is where you can estimate that these are estimate pictures, and the cutting time is based on the D value, and because Finland is long country, there is different. It varies when the cutting times are different, and it also affects how many cuts you can take. In the south, you can take 3 cuts, but in the northern parts, there is only two cuts available because the growing period is shorter there. And here is this picture is from the southern part. Here is the east city, and Seinäjoki is in the west. So the curves are like same trend, but the effective temperature sum varies between these locations, and also how the D value, the decline, how fast the D value is declining during 5 days. And in Finland, the grass mixtures includes grass and legumes, mainly clover, and there are also pure grass stands with different varieties. And here is Valio Arturi how much samples are sent to analysis, and you can see that most of the analysis is from grass and clover and grasses, and also higher number is from first and second cut. And alfalfa is not so common in Finland because of it can't survive very good from winter, and fourth cut is very rare in Finland because of the time of growing period, but maybe in the future fourth cut is becoming normal in eastern part of Finland because of the climate change. And here is an example of cutting times in Western Finland. So the first cut is taken in the beginning of June, second cut about 6 weeks later in the middle of July, third cut is in September, and fourth cut in some maybe in the future, but then it has to the harvest time has to be earlier in the spring, so and fourth cut maybe in October then. And in our Western Finland discussion group members, average yield in 2023 was 8,800 kilograms dry matter, and this means 3 cuts. So here are some the D-value and crude protein are important factors when describing silage quality, and target D-value is 680 to 700 grams per kilogram dry matter. And in these Valio-Artturi silage samples, in first and third cuts, or highest percent from these samples was achieved this target D-value. But usually in Finland, July is dry and hot month, so the D-value is declining more rapid, and there is a higher proportion of undigestible stem and lesser the more digestible leaf. So that's why the D-value is under that target. And here is crude protein values. The target for crude protein in silage is 150 to 170 gram per kilograms dry matter. And in these pictures, we can see that in all cuts, this target is achieved in 2023 and in 2022. From our pilot farms, we sent these samples to nutrient analysis, and we also analyzed the micro and micronutrients. And it is not so common in Finland that farmers wants to analyze the trace elements also, but in past couple of years, the amount of these samples has risen. And one interesting finding was from the pilot farms that when we analyzed these samples, there was deficiencies for micronutrients. So, and they are very important to good growing of grass and to the yield. If we want to achieve a good yield, we need all nutrients to be in balance. So in our one pilot farm, there was results that there was deficiencies in zinc, manganese, and sulfur. They were below the target values. And when we look these analyze results for that comprise more farmers in Finland, we can see that the sulfur content is commonly under the target value. But when we look other nutrients, manganese there is not so that they are in good level in overall situation, and then zinc there is deficiencies. And then about storage of silage in Finland, the mostly silage is stored in silos and in bales. And we are using formic acid. It's the most used additive. But in round bales, there is biological additives used. And I thank you for my side, and now Anna is going to tell you about our pilot farms in detail.
Working. Ooh, it's moving automatically. How cool is that? Let's have a look. All right, let's go back. All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Saara, for presenting the common trends of the Finnish silage production. So my name is Anna. I work as a project manager in this. Okay, I'm trying to remember the microphone, but probably you're going to hear my voice anyway. Let's try to stay still. I'm struggling with that. So I'm a project manager in the Sustainable Silage project in ProAgria Western Finland. And my task today is to tell you a little bit about some key findings which we found from the Finnish pilot farms in this project. So don't worry, I try to be as brief as possible. So I know I'm now the bad guy. I'm keeping you away from the lunch, but it will take only about 15 minutes or so. So bear with me for that time. Then you will get that long-needed nutritional replenishment in the lunchtime. Right, but if we get started here, this picture is actually from our field day event a couple of weeks ago, taken at one of our pilot farms there. So in Finland, in this project, we had in total of 6 pilot farms working with us, each one of them with a quite different kind of approach, different kind of challenges related to their silage production. And today, in cooperation with our agricultural experts, Saara, who you just heard, and Anu, who is going to give you a presentation later, we chose 3 key findings. Trust me, it was a difficult task because there were lots of different kind of individual findings, but we decided to choose these ones because they're a little bit different from each other's. And I think they all also share the common goal of the project, which was finding ways to prevent and minimize nutrient leakages in silage production. So we'll go shortly these more in detail in a moment, but just briefly going those through. So number 1, very major thing that we are finding about micronutrient deficiencies in our pilot farms, and it's linked to grass growth potential, especially in alfalfa fields, how it can hinder the growth. And also Saara was referring to that, so I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. Second one is a kind of a practical example of one pilot farm about how good TMR management can prevent silage losses. And the third one is about herbal plants and if they could be a potential option in your grass seed mixture in order to gain better nutrient efficiency. So these things we're going to talk about today. But if we start with this first one, so micronutrient deficiencies. So at the start of the project, when we started this, we didn't know that we would be addressing this issue this much. But I suppose the best part in these kind of projects is that when you have the resources, do the research, you start to dig a little bit deeper and deeper once you really find the kind of the core reason, the origin of the problems. And in this case, it happened to be micronutrient deficiencies, which became quite a prevalent theme for Finnish pilot farms. Especially, I'd say, in relation to alfalfa. So if you allow me, I'll go through that topic with the help of some pilot farm case studies in Finland. So, for example, this pilot farmer, he's a very experienced alfalfa grower in Finland. And like other Finnish farmers, if they grow alfalfa, it's normally in a mixture. So you have 50% alfalfa, rest is clovers and different kind of grasses. So at the beginning of the project, we didn't think about micronutrients, but we were thinking to do a small kind of mini trial, as Kristiina referred very nicely, to kind of find a balanced, optimized fertilization plan for alfalfa. So we tried that. We gave a little bit kind of a starter nitrogen fertilization in springtime. We did gain a little bit better quality and quantity both for legumes, both for alfalfa and grasses. Especially the grasses seem to take an advantage of that extra nitrogen. But I'd say that it was only after we started to really analyze the micronutrient levels at this farm and other pilot farms that we kind of the real problem started to unravel, so to say. So we found some quite significant deficiencies in manganese, zinc as well, especially manganese. And after this 2-year piloting program, analyzing all the results, we came into conclusion that it was rather the root reason that was hindering the growth of alfalfa. In this case, it was not the nitrogen, but rather the lack of micronutrients, manganese in particular. So I suppose it's so important to trying to find this core reason, and you never know, you might be even wasting your nutrients if we are fertilizing extra nitrogen when the real problem is somewhere completely else. So in this case, in lack of micronutrients, especially manganese. But obviously there is also a financial aspect, so analyzing those micronutrients, it will also cost a little bit extra money for the farmers, so you need to know if that's actually bringing the added value for you. But our pilot farmer really agreed on that. He actually wanted to test more block of lands, what were the manganese levels, and he also kind of tackled the problem by doing spraying manganese in his fields as a form of foliar fertilizer. All right, but moving on. So when we saw that this micronutrient issue became quite prevalent in our country, in our pilot farms, we also purchased, let me see if I'm able to, yes, push the right button, this spectrocrop analyzer, because we wanted to gather more comparable data to support the laboratory analysis, plant samples. So this device from Denmark was able to give us the plant manganese and phosphorus levels in about 20-25 minutes in field conditions, so we could analyze them with the farmers. So we did that on all of our pilot farms. And here in the pictures you can see, for example, some alfalfa plants taken from our pilot farms. They all demonstrated rather low levels of manganese, and you can see some symptoms there. Of course, there can be many contributing factors there causing these stress signals. Root rot, root nodules missing in the summer, discolorations, but there seemed to be some kind of systematic factor related to manganese. And also in our spectral crop measurement, especially it was alfalfa and these bigger leaf type clovers like red clover that showed stress, whereas other clovers, grasses were rather okay. So this was an interesting finding, not only for the farmers, but for us, for advisors, because we talk a lot about how to make alfalfa stands thrive in Finland. So we are struggling sometimes with that, and we always blame the winter, winter survival of alfalfa. So this kind of topic, the micronutrient deficiency, especially alfalfa, as being part of that reason maybe, is worth to be considered in the future, I feel. All right, but moving on, another case study kind of demonstrating the importance of this micronutrient deficiency issue in Finnish pilot farms was this beef farm. They have a finishing unit, about 900 bulls. So there, one of their targets in this project was to elevate the crude protein level in their herd. And we actually measured quite low levels of zinc, manganese, especially sulfur levels in the grass samples in this pilot farm. And as we all know that the lack of sulfur can negatively affect the protein formation in the plant, so the farmer wanted to fix this. They started to use fertilizers that contain sulfur. So now at least it's kind of, there are preconditions are there to be able to produce good quality silage with adequate protein levels when the sulfur issue was fixed. And of course it can also result in economical savings when you don't need to purchase those more expensive protein supplements, when you're able to rely on the good quality silage. Right, second brief example about our findings. It's a bit different kind of finding, related actually to this same beef farm, pilot farm as well, these brothers. So it's actually an example of a thing that, how kind of a small thing can be a very big thing for one farm. So it was kind of a little kind of a wake-up call for us all, I suppose. So we were observing the pilot farm fields, but we were also doing observations inside the barn in the feeding passage. So there was a problem of TMR heating up, which we detected. So obviously, first thing it is, we wanted to blame silage. Is it the silage that was the problem? That wasn't the case. So it was actually poorly preserved crushed grains in the TMR. So that grains was one component of that TMR. Total mixed ration, TMR, yes, lovely, good. Yes, thinking of the interpreters, there we go, that's a good point, very good. TMR, total mixed ration, yes. So it was just a good wake-up call for that how one single TMR component can spoil the whole ration. And if we think about sustainable silage issues, this means that also the nutrients inputs used for silage are lost in this case. But the problem was very easily to be fixed. We just removed the crushed grains from the ration and then gained better palatability of the feed. And that also resulted in higher feed intakes of the animals. So this was also kind of a way there was no longer need to include those protein supplements in the feed when that good quality silage was able to meet the protein needs of the animals. And this another slide, I'll go it very briefly, but I think it was just one very interesting practical finding there at the farm. So we also took samples from different parts of the feeding passage at the farm, and there was inconsistency in the TMR that was served for the bulls. So this variety in TMR content resulted in varying growth rates of the bulls in different parts of the barn. Because what actually happened was that the bulls that were served TMR the first got more concentrates and grain, and the ones that got served the last got least amount of grains. So of course this can be a health risk for the bulls that got more too much concentrates, and also, you know, overall it's an unbalanced use of nutrients. But the problem was solved at the farm by longer mixing time in the TMR wagon and with different loading order of feeding components. All right, now moving on to the last key finding. It's about herbal plants. So, is there potential to use herbal plants in your grazing ground mixtures, in your silage ground mixtures, for better nutrient efficiency? So we tried these in one of our pilot farms. So we tried 2 herbal plants. You can see here, there was a chicory here, and then plantain over there. And they were in a mixture where they had chicory, plantain, and then they had different kind of clovers, timothy, meadow fescue, Kentucky bluegrass. And the farmer found a best way to establish these herbal lays without a nurse crop, because it tended to have a shadowing effect, which also kind of resulted in poorer growth of herbal plants in the springtime. So here you can see actually this herbal lay was established in 2023 at the start of the project, and this is how it looked on the first harvesting year in the springtime in May, and the same picture in August. And we feel this could be a potential option, especially in farms, areas where you use manure, you spread manures, because we used our spectrocrop analyzer in this farm as well, if you remember from my earlier slide. So it was quite impressive to see the results. So the chicory really stood out in its ability to catch phosphorus. So one good way for minimizing nutrient runoff risks. And just to finish up with the last slide, here is a small summary of the advantages what these herbal plants could have in your mixture. So obviously catching, oh Jesus Christ, let's go back, sorry. So catching nutrients efficiently, and also ability to improve fodder palatability and your animal health. And if you're doing rotational grazing, they can offer faster regrowth. And my other agricultural expert in this project, Anu, will share more information about these other advantages related to soil structure. So because of the chicory's good taproot, it has also ability to kind of improve the soil, and in this way also improve drought tolerance in the fields. And also, hands up, who did attend to these? Who was there? European Grassland Federation event in Netherlands. I can see 2 hands. Anyone else? 3? Yeah, good for you. Rest, do better next year. Okay, here we go. So chicory and plantain were actually the 2 most featured plants there in that event last year. So we also became interested in those. All right. Now I think I'm not a bad guy. I'm going to let you down for the lunch. I think everybody's ready for some nutritional replenishment. But a huge thank you for my 2 lovely agricultural experts for giving me a hand to build up this presentation. And I just want to thank you already at this point, that give a big applause for the organizers. This is just amazing that you're able to gather this much people here. So give applause for that. Thank you. And of course, you're more than welcome, maybe, during lunch or whatever, to approach me, Anu, Saara, with any questions you might have. So we're happy to accommodate those questions. Thank you.
Still, I will ask one question.
No worries, you go ahead.
Lunch. So I know how surprised you were to see in Latvia, in Estonia, how much our farmers use maize. in silage. So taking into consideration the climate change and everything else. So how to see this future of maize in Finland, like some perspective?
Well, I can talk from my side. Anu can probably comment from an agricultural expert side if she agrees. But at the moment, yes, I suppose the climatic conditions still are a little bit harsh. They're a little bit uncertain. Farmers are interested in that. They would like to try it, but it's just one word. It's risky. And when the establishment cost of putting your maize in the field is very pricey, that kind of puts farmers to think whether it's a profitable choice to establish or not. But I definitely say that it's going to increase, but we'll see in which period of time. I think it's also a question of suitable seeds that suit our conditions, I would say, but I would definitely see it's increasing in the future. But I think we're also, traditionally, it's a very grass-based country, and we're really proud of that as well. So good grass.
Või on kellelgi veel mõni kiire küsimus, aga saab ka lõunapausi ajal tõesti. Ja aga suur tänu Annale ja Saarale kõigepealt. Aitäh. Nii, ja nüüd me oleme ära teeninud tõesti lõunapausi. Me oleme siin natuke 10-12 minutit läinud ajakavast ka üle. Et kohtume siin 13.10, et enne oli plaanis 13.00. Et kui lähete välja, siis paremale ja natuke veel edasi, kuni siis on suupiste laud ja kohvi ootamas. Ja kindlasti tulge tagasi, jätkame väga huvitavate ettekannetega. Suur tänu, et peale osutavat lõunapausi tulite tagasi. Meil on 3 väga huvitavat ettekannet veel tulemas. Et kuigi saalis on natukene vähem inimesi, vis siis, et ongi siis natuke rohkem eksklusiivne pool ainult neile, kes on kohal. Ja et järgmised 3 ettekannet ka kõik on siis inglise keeles, et kes vajavad tõlget, aga jõudsid juba kõrvaklapid ära panna, et siis kindlasti peate need tooma ja kõigile ka veel selline palve, et kui te lähete ära, et siis kindlasti kõrvaklapid meile tagastada, et ärge koju kaasa palun võtke. Ja kes ei ole veel pannud allkirja registreerimislehele, et kuidagi kõndis mööda sellest lauast, siis kindlasti need lehed on seal veel alles, et saate veel panna oma allkirjad. Nii, aga meie liigume siis edasi ja läheme põhja poolt jälle tagasi lõuna poole. Et meie järgmine esineja, Ainis Lakstinš, Läti Maaülikooli professor, kelle südameasjaks on siis Läti veekogude kvaliteet ning Läti põllumeeste toetamine, et siis toitaineid põldudelt siis leostuks võimalikult vähe. Nii siis veekogudesse, sealt edasi siis meie ühisesse Läänemerre. Ja siis meie hea koostööpartnerina siin projektis viista läbi Lätis vee kvaliteedi seiret ja uuringuid ka pilootfarmides ning siis on täna valmis jagama meiega, mida uut siis teada saime. So, please, Ainis.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, at this wonderful event of Sustainable Silage project final conference. I'm very happy and honored in the same time to talk in front of all of you. And I would like to use this opportunity also to thank the project manager of the Sustainable Silage project, Celia, for inviting me to give a presentation on water quality monitoring results that we have achieved in the Sustainable Silage project. So this time I will focus only on part of the results that we have achieved in the project since we had many more results, but then we would need twice as much time and that not fits the schedule of this event. But overall today you can see from the title I will talk about pile silage storage and the impact on water quality. So it was mentioned in earlier presentations that we have overall 10 demonstration sites, demonstration farms in Latvia. And just briefly about these farms. So there was one farm that was growing sheep. Then there were 2 farms that raised beef cattle. And then the rest of the farms were dairy cattle farms. And in some of these farms, there were different silage storage approaches used. And in 4 of them, you will see this silage is stored outdoors in piles. And we wanted to know if there is any nutrient and silage effluent leaching happening to the groundwaters. So for that reason, we established monitoring wells, which were consisted of 5 meters of pipe where the upper part 1 meter was not perforated, while the rest 4 meters were with perforated pipe, so that water could go in the pipe. And you can see the setup, how it was arranged. So we used a very commonly applied approach in creating such a groundwater wells. So we did it by hand. So we needed to use a special auger so that we could go as deep as 4.5 meters, because half of the meter was left out of the ground so that we could collect water samples. You can see on the right picture that how this pile look like and what is the distance from the pile where this groundwater monitoring well was established. So for the next demonstration farm, you can see similar approach. There were slightly bigger piles of silage stored outdoors. And you can see that we tried to arrange this groundwater monitoring well so that we would not affect trafficability for farming equipment. It was on the side, but still between 2 of these storage piles. And the next one, yes, here you can see on the right side that there is still open pile where the silage is taken and how it is stored. And then on the left side, you can see the safety mechanisms that we used to protect the wells with tires. And also the setup, how we collected water samples. So we have a bottle where water samples were collected. Then we have a pump and accumulator that powers this pump. And so we pumped out all of the water from the well and then waited long enough so that new water from the sides can penetrate the pipe itself, so that we would not collect some old water, but fresh water directly from the surrounding area. And the last site, again, you can see there is still some pile uncovered but not taken, but you can see that there were another piles that have been already used. And the idea is the same. Yes, we have this monitoring well where we collect water samples. Water samples were collected every month so that we could gain a decent data set to draw reasonable conclusions, because you will see from the slides ahead that there might be occasions where concentrations of nutrients skyrocket. And if we collect only several samples, we would never catch the real situation when the conditions are good and when the conditions are worse. What we detected in the water, so we detected the 3 forms of nitrogen. It is total nitrogen, nitrate nitrogen, and ammonium nitrogen. Then 2 forms of phosphorus, total phosphorus, and orthophosphate phosphorus. And then also biochemical oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. These 2 are units that or parameters that are used to understand how many oxygen is needed to mineralize organic matter in the water. So the results from these 4 farms are as follows. If you take a look on the pH value Yes, also pH was measured, I didn't mention earlier. But this is the cheapest parameter to measure, and it already shows that in one of the demonstration farms, the pH of water was rather low, or at least lower than compared to the another farms, and that is the first parameter that we paid attention to, that there might be some indications for leaching of silage effluent. But overall, as you know, silage effluent is very low in pH, so still these numbers for water are not so low overall. So then we come to the phosphorus concentrations, and here you can see both total phosphorus and orthophosphate phosphorus. Why do we detect this PO4 P? So this is the soluble form of phosphorus that is leaching not only from the silage effluent, but also from agricultural fields. And this can be removed by subsurface drainage systems as well. First impression about these results are that there are two farms where these phosphorus concentrations are very low, and then two farms where they are slightly higher. If I would need to somehow compare, so I would say that moderate concentrations are here, while these concentrations can be considered already as high. Then I went deeper in the results, and I plotted in this slide the monthly results for the Farm C and Farm D. You can see that in Farm D there is a moderate concentrations, and then I wanted to see if that is the case all the time, or these are some events where the concentrations go up. So here you can see that in site C, these concentrations are rather high all over the time, with some minor changes overall. So that means that there is these phosphorus forms are lost around these storage areas, and it draws our attention that there might be some problems with leaching of effluent. And it was very well described, I think, by a presentation of Kristiina when she clearly showed how dry matter affects also the amount of effluent that you can expect from the system. And then another parameter is that, of course, it depends from the soil quality as well, soil characteristics. If there are more clay, so then water would infiltrate and effluent would infiltrate much slower than when it is sandy soils. Then I switch further to the side D, and here you can see that if you show only average values, so then they might be very misleading. You can see that in most of the month of our monitoring activities, these concentrations even cannot be plotted here. They were so low that they even don't show on this graph. But then when in November, maybe slightly higher, but then January, February, and March, you can see that they went very up in terms of concentrations of phosphorus. So this shows that the most vulnerable time for silage effluent losses is during the winter time, when snow is melting and soil is rather saturated with water. If we talk and think about different approaches, what we can do to reduce these negative impacts, or even think of how to reduce risks. So we need to think about reducing the water amount that is around these piles. So, for example, if you would have some drainage systems around this piling area where you usually put the silage, so then you could reduce the soil water saturation, and thus also reduce the risks of phosphorus losses. So therefore, with this and also with a few of next slides, I wanted to emphasize that by taking water sample only once, it would show misleading results. And in this case, if we would collect only one water sample here, we would thought that this is very dramatic conditions in this farm. But overall, we can see that during the most of the time when there are not so bad conditions in terms of water availability, so concentrations are very low, even that they are not showing currently in the graph. When we go to the results of nitrogen concentrations in groundwater near the piles, so again, we would be very happy if this kind of total nitrogen concentrations, as well as here, would be in all of our streams. So that would be excellent. It would be what we are aiming for in terms of implementation of Water Framework Directive. But then in one side, you can see that there is a very minor losses of nitrates, but a lot of losses of total nitrogen. And again, this is the same farm, Farm C. So that showcases that over there, there must be some measures implemented to reduce losses of silage effluent. When we go again deeper in the monthly results, you can see that in Farm C, still these nitrogen concentrations in groundwater are very high all over the study period with minor changes. And if we look in the Farm C, so then very similar results to the previous ones presented for the phosphorus. You can see that only in 2 occasions there are very high these concentrations of nitrogen. So overall, this farm is doing good, but when the natural conditions become unfavorable, so then the nitrogen losses may happen. And the next slide is about ammonium concentrations in water, and here again the same farm showcase the results, and you can see that out of the total nitrogen that was on average approximately 9, so there is a lot of ammonium in this water that shows that this effluent contains a lot of ammonium, and you can use this as an indicator. For example, if you collect water sample and you can see that there are high concentrations of ammonium, you can say that there might be some connection with silage effluent losses. And then biochemical oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand also shows some very similar results to previously shown in terms of nitrogen and phosphorus. And I didn't plot for these parameters these monthly data because they would show the same, and so that I think that I made my point by showing only 2 examples. And overall, yes, in 2 sites, just to conclude, there are no problems with nutrient losses, with losses of silage effluent in terms of leaching. And in 2 farms, in one farm, there are constant problems, and while in another farm, there are occasional problems. So to conclude, we need to evaluate each farm separately. It is not like one solution would fit all farms, because you can see in some cases there's no need for any additional actions to reduce environmental impact, while in other farms there might be need, especially in the farm number C. Else, what I wanted to know, I always use this opportunity when I have an option to talk with farmers. And I would like to just one more time remind all of us of the importance of drainage systems. That is very necessary in Latvia, Estonia, Finland, and in all of the Northern Europe, because without properly designed and maintained drainage systems, productive and economically viable agricultural activities are not simply possible. You can do the soil analysis as many as you can. You can till soil according to the best practices. You can plant the best seeds as showed by colleague Iveta today. And then you can put the fertilizers according to most precise fertilizer management plan. And then also you can try to harvest whenever the plant is ready. But then when it comes to the soil moisture and air conditions, so only when these systems work properly, you can go on the field faster, because these systems removes excess water from the agricultural fields faster. And it was kind of indirectly mentioned by Anna in her presentation about the moisture in soil and air, these distributions. Soil would warm up more quickly if it would be dry, and you could drive the equipment, machinery on the field faster, and it would create much better conditions for plant roots to develop if you would not have any of these problems which are mentioned here in your drainage systems. Unfortunately, during this sustainable silage project, out of 10 farms, only in 2 drainage systems worked as they should work. In 8 of them, drainage systems were poorly managed or even not managed at all. If we want to be productive, if we want to be efficient, and if we want to still keep in mind environmental aspects, we need to take good care of drainage systems and avoid all of these problems, which are broken pipe, silty pipe, roots in pipe, especially when they are, if there are not only bushes but trees even growing nearby the drainage outlets. And then also broken outlets and silty outfalls cause problems of water leaving agricultural fields. And if you look at these water wells, which are located in fields where you need to connect different diameter pipes, or it is surface runoff inlets, sometimes they look like pizza tower shaped on one side, and sometimes you do not have cover or whatever. So yes, these you need to take care of these systems, and they will care later on care of your agricultural land. And these problems are driven by different aspects. I don't want to touch them all today, but yes, please keep this in mind when you are maintaining your agricultural land and drainage systems. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ainis. I have also one question. Regarding these silage piles, we have learned that these are more popular in Latvia, for example, than in Estonia. I don't know that much about Finland. But how you see the future of these silage piles, taking into consideration all these environmental regulations and so on? Will be they still used by farmers as often as now, or you see some changes?
Yeah, so in our demonstrations farms, there are a lot of also examples with concrete that is used as examples shown in Kristiina's presentation. So I think that if farms are larger, they have more opportunities to construct very, very nice and environmentally friendly these storage areas, but for the medium farms it is rather hard. There definitely need to be some financial support from the government so that they could improve these storage facilities, because obviously this is one of the cheapest way to keep and store silage. So without any financial initiatives, I think nothing would change. But again, if we go back to the results, not everywhere it is a problem.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, question, Elin? Oh, one moment, microphone will arrive.
Thank you. I have some questions about the farms and the soil, and because we see clear differences in the effluent and in the water quality. But what was did you look into why it's so different?
We looked into the places where it is done. For example, in two of these farms, these storage piles are kind of on the top of the topographic elevation. So it means that they are in upper part or on the slope of the small hill, but not hill in Norway, but in Latvia. Yes. While in the place which represented this demonstration farm C, it is a topographic depression. So there are more water accumulating. I think that could be one of the main reasons why this water that comes from surrounding area might be in contact with silage and then facilitate the leaching losses. So also the placement of the pile is very important. And you can minimize this contact by putting some straw below the silage as well, what is done also in at least two of our demonstration farms.
Okay, but not in the C and D farm?
No.
So the A and B farms?
Yes.
Yeah.
The question was the dry matter the same?
That's a very good question. So the question was the dry matter the same? And I can only tell you I don't know. I'm sorry, then I need, this is very relevant question. Yeah, and I would just need to check with our colleagues at Farmers Parliament because they were taking silage samples and analyzing all of the content and all the parameters. Yes, thank you.
Veel küsimusi? Kui ei ole, siis täname Ainist.
Ja.
Veel kord.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nii, nüüd me läheme edasi, jälle Soome tagasi. Anu Elle tegeles siis kuni selle aasta alguseni meie projektis ProAgria meeskonnas siis Soome demofarmide nõustamisega. Tema südames on rohumaad ja eriti muldade tervis rohumaadel. Ja hiljuti asus Anu tööle siis ka Soome Valios, kus ta siis igapäevaselt tegeleb Soome piimatöötootjate nõustamisega just rohumaade, karjatamise ning ka taastava põllumajanduse teemadel. So please, Anu.
Okay, so thank you, Silja, so much for inviting me here. It was so interesting to work in this Sustainable Silage project for 2 years in the practical side. And now I'm happy to be here to also talk about the soil health, which Kristiina actually mentioned to be one of the important subjects for the future. My subject here is the latest trends in grassland management, but I will really talk about the roots quite a lot. I've been called a crazy root lady in Finland. And you can think about that, why they call me like that. We'll see. Finnish silage trends. I must say that the silage trend in Finland is the basis. We concentrate on the basis. Anna already told that we are very proud of our grassland fields. It's not only that we are proud of it, of course we are, but it's because we have a lot of extreme conditions. I think you also have a lot of extreme conditions in Estonia and Latvia nowadays. So there is more and more difficult weather and difficult winters. And also, I have to say I work with developing livestock farms a lot, and many of them have lack of land. They could have possibly lack of money and time as well. I don't know if you have these problems, but if you have lack of land, you have invested, maybe you have maybe it's more effective to have very, very good silage made of grass and legume instead of having 7 different species what you have to concentrate on. Okay, it's coming in a special way. But okay, let's go to the next slide. You can see a picture of a field area in Western Finland. I live in the west of Finland. And when I arrived to Western Finland to work with grassland, it was 14 years ago, there is a lot of arable land, like you saw from Saara's presentation. And people were really like a little bit ashamed of the grassland fields over there, because like cereals was the real thing to do. But now they are actually proud of grassland production. I've noticed that it's very trendy to have grassland. And why is that? It's because of the effective result of milk production, meat production as well. And it's because of the soil health, the importance of soil health, the deep root system. So that's why I'm called the crazy root lady. The crazy, I don't know why they call me crazy, but the root lady is obvious. And also carbon is important. It's about the image as well. And we have very good carbon sequestration if there is a deep root system and biological nitrogen and good yield at the same time. This is a field which I think it's very beautiful. The mowing style is not that beautiful because it was cut by hands for a sample. But otherwise I think it's very beautiful because it's like there is not too much of anything. The color is good and there is many different species. And if I think about the grassland production 20 years ago, when I started as a grassland expert, it was very different. It would have looked different what is a perfect grassland field. But I've been thinking about the situation in 10 years' time or 20 years' time. If we would do the same, exactly the same. These pictures are like still existing. They would be almost the same like a long time ago, and they will still be right in 10 years' time. In the left, high density establishment. And it can mean different things in different farms. It can be broadcast seeding, it can be different technique, but it has to be density, like with high density. Look at the grass over there. Do you see grassland like this? Often, is it like the typical situation? Who thinks this is the typical density of grassland in your farm? Well, it doesn't prove that you don't put your hands up, but yeah. It can be done with different grass mixtures, but multiple grass mixture is really good option. And we heard about that today. Of course, the high yield is important and calculating the yield like in the picture and clear targets. And of course, good quality and knowledge of the analysis results, that helps. So if I go to the most developing farms in Finland, I would say that they really dare to try new, but they still concentrate on the basis. And this is a long list of different things. It's very basis, as you can see. These are the results of the discussion group farms. I've been running discussion groups for a long time, for 20 years. These are results from Western Finland they've been together since like 12 years or something, most of the farms. And this is what they said, like last year when I asked, what are the best practices? Why do you have better yield and better quality than the other farms? The average yield, Saara mentioned the yield year before, but I don't remember it like exactly, but it started with 9,000 if I take the average yield for several years, because the drought is a problem in some years. And like you heard, 6,000 is the Finnish average. So it's a big difference. And here is the list. I will concentrate on 2 things of the list. But I must mention that, of course, like long-term planning and making plan B is important because of the extreme conditions, for example. I will talk more about the roots and grass mixtures. I mentioned high density of grassland. And also this rotation. It's kind of short. What is the best rotation in Finland at the moment? If we think about carbon sequestration, it should be longer, but if you think about the yield more Of course, the yield has something to do with the carbonate as well. But like between 3 and 4 years, these multiple grass mixtures work well. Well, of course, right timings, and it means also observing the grassland fields. So observing means that the farmers really go with somebody to the field and look at the grass, but also look at the soil and look at the roots. And then we had talked about nutrient balance, and it has a lot to do with herd health as well. Soil health, I will go deeper to that. But the last 2 things over here, comparing practices, targets and results in farmers' discussion groups. That's very important because, for example, those farmers who had average yield of 5,000 or 6,000, when they saw the farmers who have 11,000, of course they couldn't go back to their own fields without thinking about it again. But if you never see the better ones, you are maybe happy with yourself. Of course, it's good to be happy about yourself, but if you get bad results, is that good? So discussion group and the power of that has been very, very big. And searching and adapting new ideas and knowledge from abroad, that's what we are doing right now. Here is different nationalities, at least I've noticed, well, yes, Finland and Estonia, Latvia, and one very, very loud one from Norway. Maybe somebody else, some other nationality as well. So searching different ideas is very good. Like, for example, in this Sustainable Silage project, we were really comparing different things. I learned a lot from Latvia. I learned a lot from Estonia. And the Finnish farmers learned a lot from both of these countries because we really saw it in practice. And it was very interesting to, for example, like Kristiina came to Finland and we were really checking the grass and the roots together, and that was very interesting as well. Like somebody comes to your place and sees what you are doing. Very good questions. I think you farmers could think about that. If somebody comes to your farm and asks, why do you do this? You can't explain it. You have to explain it differently than you would explain it for yourself only. Here is a piece of soil. And this we did a lot in Sustainable Silage Finnish part. I think I don't know how many millions of shovels I've taken the soil up, but it's a lot. It's good sports, by the way. And I've noticed that every year it's kind of too wet and too dry and too hot and cold, and it can be all of them in the same year. So you have to really think about that when you make the plan for your grass mixture or nutrients or whatever. But it's like an insurance if you have good root system. Because of course, if you have well-growing roots, they absorb plenty of nutrients. If you have poor roots, you are in trouble when there is very dry season. And I would say that good quality soil, it benefits both the farmer and environment. So it's like win-win. You will never lose if you have very good root system. But if you don't know how well root system you have, then it's more difficult to think about that. Also, if you think about the well-structured soil, there is holes, there is microorganism, and also if the roots are good, there is a lot of air, there is a space to grow, and it's possible to have biological nitrogen fixation if there is enough of air as well. That's not possible if it's too difficult with the soil. So deep-rooted plants. And I think this is a wonderful picture. This doesn't have all the species we use in Finland, but I just love the roots in the picture, because you can see a big difference. For example, here, Timothy, it's very much used in Finland because of the winter hardiness, and it's very good quality grass, what you get from Timothy grass, of course. But look at the roots. If it's a very dry season, which will happen in most of the midsummers, you could think about the difference of tall fescue and Timothy, for example. This is Italian ryegrass, but perennial ryegrass would be somewhere close to Italian ryegrass. It's not that deep, but it's very wide. There is also deep-rooted grass species like cocksfoot and brome grass, which we use in Finland. So if I think about the choices I make for the farms, we have dairy farm at home as well, so I also make the choices at home. So of course, when I think about this picture in my eyes, will I choose only one type of fruit? No, I don't do that. I don't know what is the weather going to be in 3 years' time if I establish it this year. And the same difference is there between like a red clover and alfalfa. I would say that red clover is better than in the picture. Yeah, if I check the soil, it looks too poor here. Of course, I haven't checked tall fescue to 200 centimeters. But I anyway think about the taproot system. It's very effective to have the taproot. But look at alfalfa. We just saw a very nice picture of this drainage system. So it goes very deep, this alfalfa root system. So when I start picking the species for the good farmers' grassland fields, I think about the roots first. Is this going to survive in the soil type, what they are having at the moment? Is this mixture going to survive in the weather, what is coming? But the next question would be the quality of the silage. I don't only take tall fescue and alfalfa. Tall fescue, I really like tall fescue, and it's very well used. It's very much used in Finland. But if we would only have tall fescue, it's a little bit different type of grass with the quality. And I don't only use alfalfa. We can't use only alfalfa in Finland because it will die. So then there's like 100% of empty space in the next year, possibly. So we use a lot of multiple mixtures. In the right, there is an example of a multiple mixture. They are in Finnish, but the point here is that this is what we had mainly 20 years ago when I started as a grassland specialist. Timothy and meadow fescue. And the brave ones had 20% meadow fescue, and the basic ones had 10% of meadow fescue, and that was the difference. And now what we have is a lot of different species, and we think about the mixture so that if you have less than 5% of something, does it matter what it is? Does it help you or make it worse? But the amount of Timothy is smaller, but we still need Timothy for sure. We get better rooting system now. We have biological nitrogen fixation. We have better crop density and higher yield. That is not only because of the different species, it's also because of the better establishment style. But for sure we have better drought and wetness tolerance. But the negative side could be the winter damage risk. It could be bigger. Timothy is very good with the winters. But then we have to think about the rotation. And here is a result of national questions, national questions for discussion group members in whole Finland. And the red ones over here are Western Finland, like I would say my groups. I work nationally as well, but these are the groups in Western Finland, which is more close to your system here. I will not go through this again. I already mentioned this species, but just that the point is that the 6.1 species in Western Finland is the average of different species. And like chicory, which Anna showed in our sustainable silage trial, nobody has chicory in national numbers. We don't have a lot of that, but we have tested chicory for about 12 years already in Western Finland. And we have way more of perennial ryegrass and cocksfood, and also more legumes in Western Finland. And we have very dry soil types, like clay, a lot of clay, so that makes the difference. But then the best pictures, we are getting closer to the roots and the soil. So I think all my Facebook friends are really depressed because they see so many root pictures that I think they stop following me in a while. Because I really love the root pictures, and it tells so much about the soil. Like in the left, for example, you can see that the species, the plants are kind of very small. They have some trouble, and the water has been staying there for too long. In the middle picture, it looks nice because this is the most difficult part to explain in English, by the way. I'm suffering now. But you can see these particles of soil, they are rounded here and they are stuck to the roots. Rounded, it's good news to have rounded pieces of the soil. And if you take the whole big part of the grass mixture up like this, you should see a lot of rounded soil pieces over there. If you have, for example, tall fescue and you check that, you already get this long of root, this long piece of the soil immediately. And several worms would be showing their head from the soil. And here is roots of alfalfa. You can see the root nodules over here. I always check the root nodules, and sometimes when it's a new thing to check the root nodules, it's very interesting to see the color of the root nodules if the biological nitrogen fixation is working or not. It's very important news for the farmer. And it's a lot about air, nutrient balance, and water. And like we noticed, these problems with micronutrients in Sustainable Silage project, it could really be the limiting factor for the root nodules to grow if there's not enough of something. Now we get back to the Sustainable Silage pilot farm field. I happened to pick the same farm what Anna already had there. We have some others, but I accidentally took the same farm here. But I really love this field. I don't know in your eyes if it looks good or not. Kristiina, do you like this field? Yeah, she likes the field, yeah. Is here somebody who thinks this is quite kind of awful? It's not my field, by the way. No? This is the big bull unit, and they had very dry seasons during these pilot years. And they had a lot of new rental fields with soil issues. And then Timothy-based grass mixtures and low roots didn't work anymore. This is a picture of the new multiple grass mixtures they are using now, which helps them a lot. But they have another different type of mixture, which was tested in the project in this picture. So it's more like the ones we saw from Latvian presentation, like a lot of clovers. And that was tested in the very difficult fields. And we wanted to see what is the effect for the soil. Here is you can see the field. Of course, in the left side, well, if we look here, the left side, I have taken the pictures from different side of the field, but this is the left side. Of course, it looks poor because there is not fertilization. But what we wanted to see was the roots and the soil. And by the end of the first silage season, it was established the year before, there was a big difference. Oh, this is going with the voice on. Interesting. Okay, now the voice is off. Yeah, okay. Because I think it's better that I explain it in English rather than the Finnish explanation. So they're checking the soil now after having a lot of clovers and no clover. Otherwise, it was the same mixture. And we were, of course, taking pieces of soil, pieces of soil with the shovel from both sides. Here is the side with no clover, and we smelled it. Of course, they put the heads to the hole and smell it, and you can see it's not rounded pieces of soil really, and there is no air. It smelled like cellar, the bad smell, really bad. And then 1 meter over there. It's still not that rounded because it's a problem soil, but it's much better. And the roots are really growing much deeper, the tap roots, and the smell was way better. Here is the difference. This clover, tap root of the clovers they're really getting through and giving air for the soil. So the smell was really different. And these pilot farmers were really interested about the smell. They started to smell all the fields. They have a few fields because they have a big farm. Here. Then we get more to the legumes, and why I talk about alfalfa in my presentation about the soil is that alfalfa is the hardest one for us in southern Finland. Of course, in northern Finland as well. But it's very hard because alfalfa is really stressed about everything. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of clay soil. There's not that much of air for alfalfa. And I checked a lot of roots, and generally I didn't see very good root nodules over there. And the clovers, which were growing next to the alfalfas, they were doing great, but alfalfa was in trouble. And like Anna mentioned about this spectra crop, it was very interesting to see these different species next to each other, how alfalfa was stressed about every possible weather and situation. When like tall fescue was doing great at the same time. They both have deep root system, but they are very, very different. And this white clover was kind of not that stressed from legumes, if we think about that. Here is another pilot farmer, a picture of that farmer in the left, but the more important picture is his trial. In the middle, like in the picture over here, you can see the field in the first pilot year. There was a lot of alfalfa. The color was not perfect. It looks kind of nice here, but it's like a little bit too light green, even in real. And we wanted to test different ways to use slurry in this field. But the problem was that we didn't get any results because all the alfalfa died in the next winter. So we wanted to see if there's a difference in different type of slurry application, if it's it's surviving better or not. And what was left in this problem field, this is mainly tall fescue. But if there was tall fescue 10%, you can imagine how happy the farmer was. By the way, he had a lot of very good fields. So I only saw his most horrible field here. I'm happy he's not here listening to this. But we really wanted to go on with alfalfa and realize what is the problem. And this is one thing we really discussed a lot with sustainable silage pilot farmers and also experts in our cooperation countries. We want these big roots to our clay land. And now I have kind of depressing list of all the challenges we found from alfalfa. I'm not going to read all the list through. The point over here is that we really have to realize what are the challenges, because then we are able to succeed later. There was even more of those, but there was not enough of space to write every problem down here. But what we learned from Estonia, for example, was this cutting time of our third cut. At least that was really wrong. Naturally, it is a wrong cutting time, what we have in Finland with our three-cut system. We mentioned this lack of micronutrients several times already. But we are still going on with alfalfa, and we have farmers who succeed with alfalfa really well, but there is a lot of problems in most of the years. And we will go on with this challenge. And in the break, you can come and tell me what we should do better with alfalfa if you realize that there is something that you could teach me with alfalfa. We also collected ideas from different countries. This is just shortly why we were thinking about this deep-rooted chicory and plantain. Because in United Kingdom, they have a lot of chicory and plantain, and they say they fight for the drought. And a lot of high nutrient uptake. We wanted the phosphorus out of the soil. And this is a proof of the pilot trial. Here is alfalfa and different grass species, tall fescue included, and this is the first silage year. And what is the winner over here? You can see chicory is way better than anything else. And the problem was the topsoil at this farmer's many fields, because he's grazing the sheep and the cows, and there was a lot of topsoil problems. Not only this farmer had the topsoil problem, it can be if they use like a minimum, Anna, what was tillage? Yeah, minimum tillage, yeah. Like the topsoil problems really show up if you do it in a wrong type of soil or the wrong weather. So this chicory, with this farmer, it really helped because he had several fields next to each other, and the field which had chicory in it, even if the chicory would die in the second year, that's a wonderful air what it's leaving to the topsoil. So it really helps the soil and the smell, of course. Plantain didn't survive for the first winter, so we skipped that, but we are still like thinking about the chicory some more. And then another thing, this is about soil. We have mentioned mowing height several times, but we think about the mowing height because of the roots. Because when you cut the grass, the root system stops working for a while, and it's kind of a big stress for the roots. And then if there's like just a little piece of the species left, of course it's a big job for the roots. This is like rotational grazing system. Thinking about that, it's if the cows eat it all the time, the roots are in trouble. It's the same over here. And another thing, which is also mentioned, it's nice to be one of the last ones because everything is said. Here is the root rot, and this has been really interesting during this project because there was more time to check all the roots, and I've been checking the grassland species and roots for a long time, but I had more time for that because of this project, which was wonderful. And one of the pilot farmers had the problem that why is the clover always disappearing in the third year? Well, when we were thinking about this problem, isn't it kind of natural that red clover is actually disappearing in the third year? But I really digged all of these dead red clovers on the spring times. And of course, then it's easy to find the dead ones and then like look at the dead ones. Why did this one die? And then I looked at them in the autumn and saw this root rot, a lot of that. You can't prevent it. Of course, it's coming. But if we would all put like 100% of legumes, like red clover, to the fields, it would have a lot of root rot over there. But when we use multiple grass mixture and a little bit higher mowing height, and then we also like avoid useless cultivation procedures like overseeding for no reason. Some of the Finnish farmers want to overseed every year without any reason, just in case. Because I don't know if it's nice or why is that. It could be like an investment. They think so, but if they drive over clover every spring, and it causes more and more of root rot, because it really makes some cutting to the plants. It's a big problem. And it's also one good thing that they have to realize that this will happen anyway. So it can't be a target to have 5 years rotation with plenty of legumes, and you can't think that there will be some left in the 5th year. So, as a conclusion, check the roots and check the species you have. And don't be happy enough to see only up here. You can see the mowing height, you can see the leaves here, but it's very important to see the roots. Oh, there's one very good friend. It takes like 1 minute to take the shovel and take a little piece of the roots up. You don't have to make like a full 1 hour soil test. It can be 1 minute that you use for that, and it's good exercise. And it's very simple also to calculate the yield with this sword stick as well. You can get the average with this stick. And in the end, what is better than smelling the soil? It's so interesting. You get so much information about the soil. And if it smells fresh, you can be happy about it. If you have deep roots, it smells better because there is more air anyway. Of course, the smell of different soil types is different. But if you really feel that it smells bad, that's bad news. And if you see like old pieces of straw, for example, after 3 years, and it's still there and it's smelling bad, that can't be good soil system you're having. So if you have very good root system and plenty of worms, they also freshen up the soil. I also love to see the manure of the worms, because it proves that there is like an open space in the soil, and if you don't see the worms, they run away. You still can check the manure of the worms. It can sound a little bit crazy, but it's important. And for the end, Estonian and Latvian and Finnish style of smelling the soil. This is a very simple thing to do. Many of you are here as a proof. There is different styles. For example, somebody is making like full body system. And this one, like a kind of up like this. And look at this. Oh, that's Anna, by the way. She's so excited because, this is a Norwegian man. And here, this is never-ending story. This is a study trip to Finland with Sustainable Silage group. Okay, my minutes are gone, but it's not my fault. They are just smelling and smelling. Okay, now they finished. So please smell your soil. It's very simple and effective. And that was my presentation. And like Silja said, I will be working for Valio from next January with grassland development. So I put my personal email address there if you want to contact with grassland issues. You will find me with this address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anu. I know we have one comment from Estonian side, very important one. And then we take questions.
Thank you to Anu. Eesti põllumeestele ma tahtsin öelda, et te nägite siin nüüd seda kuivaine mõõtmise nii-öelda mõõdupuud, mida kasutavad soomlased ja mida tegelikult kasutame ka meie oma rohumaadel. Ja kui ma Anul külas käisin, tema töövari oli nädal aega, siis kõige tähtsam tähelepanek, mis ma kõrva taha panin, on see, et meie eestlased kasutame seda mõõdupuud kahjuks valesti. Ja mis mõttes valesti, et selleks, et seda kuivaine saagikust määrata, me peame kõigepealt määrama ära silmaga rohumaa tiheduse ehk siis selle kattuvuse. Ja ma saingi teada, et te siit slaididelt ka nägite, et nende rohumaad on väga-väga tihedad, et meil nii tihedaid rohumaid tegelikult suhteliselt harva näeb. Ja need, mida meie silmaga hindame, et on selline 80% täituvus, siis soomlaste jaoks on tegelikult 60%. Ja kui te nüüd mõtlete, et kas on ikkagi kindel, et meie hindame valesti, mitte soomlased, siis see mõõdupuu on tegelikult Soomes välja töötatud. Nii et see on Lukke instituudis see mõõtmissüsteem välja töötatud, nii et sellepärast ma olen kindel, et meie peame seda oma silmamõõtu natuke just selle rohumaade tiheduse puhul hakkama ümber hindama. Aitäh!
Ja, on veel küsimusi saalist? Ei ole, siis ma küsin ise.
Thank you. There's a question coming.
Yeah. So, just a recommendation for Estonian farmers, if they go to their grassland and want to observe what is the situation, for example, with the soil, what is the easiest way to do it, the first step, how to evaluate?
The first step is to go down and not to stay in the car, but to go down and really take like a test area, like 1 meter area, for example, and really look what is the density, what is the % of empty space over here, which species I do have here, and then take a little piece of shovel, like soil with the shovel, and check what are the roots. And when you go to the next field, you can compare, for example, Timothy, how long are the roots in my next field. If you have 1,000 hectares of field, you can't dig everything, but you can take like a few areas and test those. Yeah.
Good recommendation. And other question. In your now with your new work with Valio farmers, what do you see in Finnish context? What is the topic you see that you need to concentrate more in the future?
Yeah, I think there's extreme conditions and facing the problems with different weather. And of course, this root system has something to do with it. But we have to work in every possible weather, and we have to think about what is the situation going to be in 10 years. Because the plans we make now, they will exist in 5 years and 10 years. So we can't stop here. We have to think about the future every day. Yes.
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Ja nüüd liigume edasi veel põhja pool ringi. Nii. Elin Halvorsen Sikkeland. Yeah, almost. Norwegian grassland expert. Norra rohumaade ekspert. Koos abikaasaga ise on ta ka farmer, põllumees. Tegeleb samuti Norra põllumeeste nõustamisega ja igapäevatöös annab siis oma teadmisi ja kogemusi edasi ka noortele üliõpilastele Nordi ülikoolis just loomakasvatuse valdkonnas. Elin, please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Silja, for asking me to come. I've been in Estonia before, but only for kind of holiday purposes. So it's very nice being here and meeting people both from Estonia and Latvia and Finland. I'm very, very engaged in grasslands. So this is been very interesting, and I hope to talk with more of you after on. I'm a dairy farmer back home. 70 dairy cows. It's pretty big Norwegian dairy farm. The average Norwegian dairy farm is 32 dairy cows. Come a little bit back to that. I will start with, just get this to work first. Yeah. I want you first. You have been very quiet. Now I want you to talk with your neighbor. You just get a minute or two. But what do you associate with Norway and agriculture? And now you have to break the sound wall all up there. I want this room to you have to talk together. I see someone not talking that much to the neighbor, so you have to talk together now. Break the sound wall. Last one today. I have to wake you up. I just stop you there. Is it someone who is able just to speak out loud to me here without not using the microphone? Just some very short, I can translate it if someone give it in English. The Norwegian brown cow, yes. Or the Norwegian red cow, we call it. NRF, yes, definitely. We are proud of that one. Something else? Apple cider. Apple cider, yeah, from the western coast. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good. Anything else?
I think the landscape might make it quite difficult to cultivate some areas.
Yeah, the landscape is definitely different from all the Baltic countries and Finland also as well. Yes, definitely. And I will come into that. Good, thank you. And I will start to say a little bit about latitude and size, because that's one of the main differences and might kind of have something to say on what I will talk about today. Norway is long, and if we take Estonia and we put Estonia into Norway on the same latitude, Tallinn is almost the same latitude as Oslo, as our capital. You see that we go almost all the way down to Denmark in the south there. If we put the whole Estonia into Norway, then we see that Norway is Estonia is just a little part. It's a little region of Norway. And no, wrong there. I am based here in the very middle of Norway in a place called Steinkjer. And that's approximately 64 degrees north. We're still quite far up to, no, sorry, that was wrong. The polar circle goes here almost. And this is a big farming region. The other bigger farming region is here around Oslo. And we also have a very important region here in Rogaland. But we have farming all the way up to the very north. And one of the reasons is that we are not in the EU, as our good Latvian speaker earlier today said when we talked about these eco schemes. And we have the Norwegian agricultural politics stands on 4 legs. And one of the important ones, I will say, which will kind of maybe give you some background for my presentation, is this one. That one of the most important legs, one of the 4 important legs to maintaining farming activity throughout the entire country. We want to have farmers up almost at the North Cape, at the very north and all the way south. And we want still to produce the apple cider on the western coast, even it's very steep and very kind of not very practical, not very efficient. And that's an important, very important leg. I've been talking with some of you about the Norwegian climate. It's actually not so different when it comes to temperatures. Some here think that maybe Norway is very, very, very cold. Well, some inland parts are quite cold in the winter, but the summers is very nice. And this is Tartu, and then we have Steinkjer, which is where I live, and then we have Stavanger, which is in the southwestern part of Norway. And if we see on the average temperatures, they are not that different. It's a bit warmer in summer here compared to Steinkjer. Here we have a very, very wet climate, so it gets colder, but you see that it's warmer during the winter. And the average temperature between Tartu and Steinkjer is it's 1 degree total year, so that's not a big difference. If you go down to the southwestern part, it's quite much warmer, and that's because it's a very, very close to the sea and quite south. So that's very good growing conditions there for grasslands, because it's very wet, as we will see on the next one. It's very wet, and that's maybe the biggest difference. And we had a very nice presentation of Ines, and I will also come into drainage. And in Norway, drainage is very important because we have a lot of precipitation. Here it's around 670. Steinkjer, where I live, is 900, and if you go down to Stavanger and to the region there, it's 1,221. Also very north in Norway, around Tromsø, the biggest city in the north, it's also around the same precipitation. It's colder, but it's the same precipitation. But the wettest part in Norway, there we get as much as 3,500 millimeters a year. So it's some places in Norway really have to work with getting the water off and out. And Norway, we saw some nice figures from Finland. Norway, we have only 3.5% of agricultural land. The rest is kind of other land. It's open, firm ground, it's bogs, it's glaciers, not very much glaciers, and they are sadly disappearing. Then we have quite a lot of forest, but it's not so much of it who is really productive. And then we have some, of course. Compared to Estonia, here you have around 23%, which is agricultural land. So we are very, very Norwegian, at least farmers and people who are interested in food production, we really try to protect that agricultural land. And if we then go and see what are we producing on these fields and these areas, it's 51% is it's grasslands for harvesting. And then we have 30% of cereals. And then we have 15%, which is grazing is it called inland grazing areas? No, it's not inland. What's the name again? It's not forest grazing areas, but it's areas you can't plow it, but you graze it, and it's a certain amount of grass there. So it's kind of so 2/3 of all this 3.5% of Norway, which is agricultural land, that's grassland. So we are a grassland country. We could have produced more potato. Could have a higher amount of potato in also some of the grassland areas. But at the moment, people, they want to eat pasta and rice instead of potatoes, sadly. So it could be a bit different. The cereal areas in Norway, you couldn't easily make it much bigger, slightly bigger, but then you are going into the more marginal places. And here you see Norway again. The yellow ones is where we are growing mainly cereals. I live up here. And we see here on the western coast where it's actually a very good growing conditions. It's too wet for cereal growing. So they are producing a little, but it's more than 70% of the area down here is grassland. And I also want to take a little bit about the rules and basis for agriculture in Norway, because I know it's different from other countries. I don't know if it's different from Estonia, but it's different from many other countries at least. I know that I think we are the only country in the whole world that have negotiations every year between the state and the farmers' organization. Then the farmers' organization and the state, they negotiate about the agricultural budget of Norway, about the price, the size of the budget of different kind of subsidies. What should we focus on this year? We have nothing to do with the EU agricultural politics. Norway is close to EU in many other of the political sides of EU, but not in the agricultural politics. And the parliament approves in the end. So this goes every year. It's not always that the farmers get what they want, but we are negotiating and coming close there. As we are this long and kind of geographical and climatic kind of strange and hard country, we have quite high market regulation and tolls. Our domestic food production is about 40 to 45% of what we need for the population. So we have quite low self-sufficiency. Could have been higher if people have eaten more potatoes, for example, and more cabbage and more what we can grow, but people want different than what we are able to grow. And then we have a concession law where the government, if you are selling your farm, the government you have to be approved for buying the farm. And that's because they don't want the prices of the farms being too high. They want to have prices which says that you as a new farmer can actually run the farm and be able to have a income of running the farm. And they don't want kind of people to buy a farm just to have it as a nice place to stay. And it's personal ownership of farms. In Norway, it's not allowed for companies or cooperatives to own farms. It's personal. I don't know if that's a problem here, but I know when you come to other farms, other countries, that the bigger kind of grocery or food production companies, they want to own kind of the whole supply chain from the farm all the way to the shop. And then the last is the allodial law. The farm owners' oldest descendants has the priority when farms are sold. So the oldest kid of a farmer has the right to buy the farm if you have the money. The younger brother or someone else cannot come and say they want the farm. And that's coming all the way back to the Vikings, actually. So that's an old one. So we have many, many family-owned farms. And this is the farm where I am living now. And it's been in my husband's for many hundred years in his family. So, this looks a little bit strange than what it should, but anyway, you get it. The farmland, it's about 1.1 million hectares. We also have quite some farmable land, but that's land higher above the sea level, up in the mountains, or it's kind of harsher conditions. But we have a lot of rangeland. 45% of Norway is land we can graze with our ruminants. And this 45% is said to be very good or good grazing rangelands. That's a very important part of Norwegian agriculture. If we go to sheep farmers, we have a lot of sheep farmers in Norway using this rangeland. And for them, a sheep farmer with rangeland pasture rights, which many of them have, they get 40% of their forage from the rangeland every year, because they are sending the sheep up in the mountains or into the forests when they have lamb, and the lamb are kind of eating out there, and then they are slaughtered when they're coming back. So it's very, very, the rangeland and grazing rights is a very high prerequisite for sheep and good sheep production in Norway. So, but what's the challenges? I will say a little bit about challenging in the Norwegian plant production. And it was a nice, from Anu, you said that, it's the changing climate conditions. It will be a challenge, and that's definitely the same. More extreme weather, more extreme rainfalls, and droughts. In Norway, drought is a very, very rarely used word, actually. But the last 5 years, we see it coming. And it's really a challenge, because we have, as you saw the root pictures of Anu, we have Timothy with some mead of fescue and some red clover. That's the mixture we have used for hundreds of years, more or less. We have more unstable and warmer winters. So I will come back to that, because that can be a big problem. Then we get more plant diseases, more insects, and more weeds. Weeds is already kind of a big problem. It's our problem. Plant diseases and insects is not a big problem in Norway because of the normally cold winters. And winter hardiness, it's kind of strange to say, but I will go deeper into that. But winter hardiness, because of milder winters, is definitely a problem. Because I will show you why. And then forage yield. Do farmers actually know what they have? That's a challenge, I will say, as an advisor. And forage quality, it's too stable on a low basis. I will also go a little bit into that. And soil compaction and soil erosion, as we have quite much of our soil is quite steep, so soil erosion is a problem. So, here we talk about sustainable silage management. And when I saw the title and some of the others, I was thinking, yeah, what is sustainable silage management for me? When someone put up the word sustainable to me, then I at once think of this lady. Do you know her? It's our kind of land mother, Gro Harlem Brundtland. She was the prime minister in the 80s and early 90s. And she was leading the sustainable development group who kind of came up with the definition, which is much used. But for me, sustainability is to get as much out of the resources we use in agriculture. That's sustainability for me, that we get as much out of the nutrients we use, and the working time as a farmer, the area we have, that we are able to produce as much as possible with a little, so little loss as possible. So the presentation of Aine is to look at what different losses do we have, for example, for silos. It's very important. And how can we ensure that, to get as much out of the resources used as possible? Well, I will say it's yield. We need to know the yield. And how many of you are farmers? Hands up. Now everyone has gotten the translation. Yeah. How many of you know your yields? Yeah, maybe half of you or something. Then I'm glad to say that you are more or less close to the Norwegian farmers. 35% says that they don't know. This is dairy farmers. They are probably the ones that knows the most about their yields. If you have asked a sheep farmer or a beef farmer, it would definitely be lower than this one. And this is what we see here. Anu has also been talking about average yields in Finland. Average yield in Norway is about 5,000 to 6,000. We are talking about decars in Norway because we have so small farms. But hectares, 6,000 to 7,000. 5,000 to 6,000 is kind of the normal average. But we have definitely those who have up to 10,000. But then we have those one who has very low yields also. But that was one question. This was a big questionnaire made in 2017. But then we have, if you ask if people take forage samples, then 50 say that yes, we take forage sample each year. But then the rest of the 50% says yes every other year, but less frequently than every other year, or no. And I wonder, how are you able to calculate your yield if you don't take forage samples? You need dry matter content at least, I will say. So, yeah, that's one big thing. And many of Norwegian farmers say that, yes, I want to increase my yield per hectare. I guess if I ask you, you also want to increase your yield per hectare if it's not cost you too much. But you have to start to knowing your yields if you will go to somewhere else. And if you don't know where the starting point is, I run orienteering. And if you don't know that this is the point for starting, then you are not able to go to the start either. And that's the same with yield. You know, or getting better yield and better results, you need to start with your yield. And yeah, how can we measure yield? I will say it's pretty easy. In Norway, 70% of the silage is stored in round bales. It's not very hard to weigh them. Either you have a weight and you take forage samples. It's pretty easy. If you have a forage wagon with a weight, which many have because they have TMR or PMR, partly mixtration is even more common in Norway, then it's very easy. But bunker silos are increasing, and pit silos partly, but not so much. That's here, I think. But we have ongoing projects. It's something here. It didn't look like this when I made the presentation, but anyway. We have projects going on. We're trying to find and predict yield and quality and winter damage. Still, we have nothing that are no concrete models that are ready for Norwegian farmers to use. But I know there was this article published some years ago, and they really saw that using drones or other kind of flying equipment that is not a satellite-based, because using satellite-based pictures in Norway for yields, especially in grassland, is quite hard because we can have months with cloud cover and then you are not able to predict anything. But these lower flying, and they can fly over quite big areas per day, they have very good results. So I hope we will get there, because I've tried for 10 years to get the farmers to weigh and make the yields, but they are kind of slow. And then, yeah, sustainability. Get as much out of the resources used as possible. Then it's, of course, fertilizer. Are you getting the yield out of what you fertilize that you could, or are you losing some of them for some of it? It's in Norway we are especially talking about N2O leaching and runoff of phosphorus. I've understood that phosphorus is not such a big kind of question here because it's flatter, but in Norway phosphorus is it's the main kind of concern when it comes to nutrient leaching. And then again, how can we put up a good fertilizer plan if you don't know your yield? We're coming back to the yield again. Still the yield. It's kind of, you have to, then you are guessing. And it's been also been a very nice, some nice trials. This is the newest coming. It's in Norwegian, sadly, but it's possible to translate. They have tried out earlier fertilizer application. The spring is starting earlier now than before, and the normal habit in Norway is to take out the manure first, and then have the mineral fertilizer a couple of weeks later or something like that. What they now have tested, it's to have earlier fertilizer, also the mineral fertilizer application. And what they then have the manure after, because it's you can drive with a lighter tractor with the mineral fertilizer than often when you are, especially in Norway, we are driving quite a lot of the manure with a tank wagon, and it's quite heavy, so it's soil compaction is a problem, especially when you go early in the spring before it's dry enough. And what they have seen in both this and some previous studies is that they have seen when they apply the fertilizer 3 to 4 weeks earlier than they normally do, they got up to 40% more yield in the first cut. Not 40% as an average overall, it depends on the growing season. And as, of course, also the mineralization, you will get more out in a colder season than in a warmer season where you have more nitrogen mineralized from the soil. But it's really 40% if you can go up to that. That's a huge amount. And they also got up to 10 to 15 more total yield per year with having this earlier application. So that's really interesting one. And as well, we normally have the lowest CO2 equivalent per kilo product if we have a higher yield. And I don't know about Estonian and Finnish and Latvian farmers, but is methane, is that a word you have heard about? Yes. And someone is now also nodding when the translator are catching up. Because I want you to say again, talk a little bit slightly with your neighbor. I'm this one. I want you to catch on. What do you think when you meet such numbers? I guess some of you are producing meat, and you get these numbers that 1 kilo beef is 26.61 kilo CO2 equivalent per kilo, and then you have the field-grown vegetables, which is 0.37. And this is 32 times the emissions, so we should eat more field-grown vegetables. Definitely, we should stop eating this meat. What do you think? Talk a little bit with your neighbor. How do you feel when you get these kind of numbers presented? Are you getting happy? I heard someone said you feel terrible. Was it right? Sorry?
You can't grow in this grassland where you have pasture. You can't have them bananas.
Yeah, that's very true. But we can grow carrots. Oh, we can grow carrots. Now, my main point here, which I often have told my farmers, because they are getting fed up of this, really, and feeling so bad. What they compare here is kilo for kilo. Are you getting as kind of filled up of 1 kilo of carrots and 1 kilo of beef? No. So what's important is at least to talk about the energy value, maybe also the protein. I haven't taken the protein. And then if we recalculate with the, the energy content instead, then we are getting, then it's not so 72 times the emissions, it's 13 times the emissions. So it's kind of, so the amount of produce is very important. And why do I take this? Yeah, because in Norway it's a lot talk about methane these days. And if we have higher the digestibility of the silage, then we see less methane emissions. The question if we are going to produce a higher digestible silage, then we might have to plow more often, and then it's a question if this makes it better in the end. But it's a very, very strong focus on methane in Norwegian agriculture at these days. And one of my questions is if that is climate, is that the same as sustainability? It's not for me, at least, but because we have a country where we can grow grass and we can feed ruminants. That's our kind of force. But what they really now want from parts, at least from the government, is that they want to take down the methane emissions from the ruminants, and that more or less means that we should have less of them, or we should use this bovaer. Have you heard about bovaer? Yes, you are nodding. And it's said from 2027 every dairy cow in Norway should have bovaer for 80 days per year to take down the methane emission. Sadly, I will say the trials don't show more and show less methane from bovaer than if we are making silage with higher quality. So I would say we rather should do that than paying a Swiss company quite a lot of money to make this. But yeah. But we see, in Norway, we see very little change in the digestibility the last 20 years. And why so? Well, it's probably it's the cost of more cuts. In Norway, it's 1, 2, or 3 cuts. We have someone taking 4 down in the south western part, but it's a cost with more cuts. It's a question about winter hardiness. Do we take 3 cuts? Then it's harder than 2 cuts in many areas. If we make better forage, better quality, then we often need more silage because the cows there are eating more. So do we have the area and the potential? It's many questions there. But I think that we definitely could have And then again, we're coming back to the yield. If you don't know the yield, you don't know if you are able to make even more silage in a better way with a better quality. But I talked about this winter hardiness, and that's one of my kind of, as a plant lady, what we see is that when we get higher temperature under what we call the pre-acclimatation into the winter, like in August, September, they have seen that it's negative for acclimatation and the freezing tolerance. And what they have done up in Tromsø, which is pretty high north, is that they have tested good adapted grasses like Timothy and less adapted grasses, the perennial ryegrass, and tested them they are tested them in greenhouses in phytotrons, so they are kind of able to have the control on everything. And what they then see is that the northern varieties, those who should be the best in hard winters, they get more reduced freezing tolerance than the southern varieties when it's higher and milder autumn temperatures. Then the plants, they aren't really understanding that it goes into winter. And then they are not making them ready for the winter the same way that they did before. When the light goes down, then also the temperatures go down. Red clover was much less affected than the grasses, so it looks like it's a grass problem more than a legume problem. And in Norway, at least, and I guess here also, it's a lot of winter stress factors for grassland. Freezing, it's waterlogged soil, it's ice cover, it's frost heaving, and it's out drying of the plants if it's a dry part. And this is in Norway, especially in the northern part, but we also see it all Norway through. And they did a test also, now that's quite recently, they did a test because they had, farmers said that it's more people, more plants dying during wintertime than earlier. Why so? What's happening? And then they wanted to test the survivors from different fields against original plant material that was sown the same year. They were comparing those two. And what they thought was that the survivors should be have better winter hardiness than the original plant material. But it was actually opposite. Those plants who has experienced these stressful winters, even though they have survived, they still had a higher, they had a lower survival rate than those who were newly sown. So we are not able, they are getting so stressed during the first winters, they are staying out, that they are meeting problems. And they say, I'm coming here with my sweet grandmother, because they mainly say it's because of age, also for the plants, that they are having more stress. Why I take my grandmother, that's why I'm here more or less, because she learned me everything about plants and blueberries and everything. But they say aging plants will have more stress and will handle these more diverse, we can say, I think I can say more diverse winters than we have now compared to earlier, because earlier we had more stable winters. And they get much more stressed when we get freezing and thawing and all of this for the varieties that were made for these kind of areas of Norway. And then I'm more soon to the last one. They have also seen what happens if you have hardening and frost tolerance, and you also see what's happened when it's wetter in the winter, wetter and warmer. And what they see, if we have a low temperature and wet soil, then we have good hardening in plants. And that's what the Norwegian kind of plant material, Norwegian varieties are used to. But if we have higher temperature and still wet soils, and that's what they say for Norway at least, we will have milder autumns and higher temperatures, and it will be wet, maybe even wetter than it has been before. Then we have a reduced winter hardening in the plants and the reduced tolerance for low temperatures. And that means it takes time to adapt the plants to these kind of changing climates. And we have a rapid change in especially the autumn climate, I will say, in Norway, especially the autumn that gets longer and warmer and wetter. So then we come to to the water management and the drainage system. That's even more important than before, and that's one of the kind of main issues for many Norwegian farmers. And it's also expensive to make and fix the drainage system. But it's, of course, if we are able to handle the water, we can have less soil compaction because the soil is drying out more easily. We are getting less traffic-induced plant damage. We're getting less NO2 up in the atmosphere. We get better hardening and frost tolerance, and we also get better yields, which will give us less CO2 equivalents per decar produced. So water management is definitely an important thing. And this is from the same I showed earlier, and they say that better drainage on my land would have resulted in higher forage yields. And mostly is here that they partly agree or totally agree. So it's really many who means that I should have drained my fields better. And silage production, it's an outdoor sport. So good agronomy, it's the important key for being able to do it. And I could also have talked about pH, about plant breeding and cultivar development, which is also very important. But I think the key thing from Norway now is to be able to handle the water in a good way. That will solve more of it, at least. So that's some minutes over, I think, but still.
Küsimusi Norra kohta? Kõik tundub nii erinev või siiski sarnane? I would ask, you talked a lot that this big issue is methane and so on. Coming back to our project topic, how high level problem or challenge it is this nutrient leakages, especially nitrogen and phosphorus from agricultural land in Norway, how highly it has been, in political level by scientists, and if so, then in national level, what are the main measures what Norwegian farmers have to implement? Some new technologies or practices or investments to drainage, or what is on the table?
Very good question. And I will say it depends where in Norway you are, because we have many of the fjords, and there this is a bigger problem than if you are kind of closer to the northern Atlantic Sea. But especially in the Oslo fjord at the moment, it's really a water quality problem. It's not only agriculture, but agriculture is definitely a part of it. The area around Oslo, it's a part of Norway where we are growing a lot of grains, and in Norway the common it's normal to plow. So one thing that started for quite many years ago is to go over to less or no tillage systems and grass-covered waterways that you have. But what's the new thing now is that this year we got a new legislation. They have worked on it for, I think, 20 years. I started in advisory for 15 years ago, and then they said soon it will come a new legislation. It came this year, so it took 15 years from they really thought it should come. And we will have much stronger phosphorus limits from this year, and they will go down. Now we have a limit on 3.5 kilos, now 35 kilos phosphorus per hectare coming from manure, but in 2033 we will have 23 kilos coming from all you are applying. Mm-hmm. So we will really have a big downsize, and many farmers and also researchers are wondering if we are able to take out the yields we are when we are going this low on phosphorus, because we are, as I think here, we have very low natural content of phosphorus. We have a phosphorus lacking soils, more or less. So that's the big thing.
Okay.
It's phosphorus, it's not nitrogen. Nitrogen is not the big.
But what about this, referring back to Finnish presentation, these limiting factors, maybe these not phosphorus, maybe these some lack of some micronutrients. So we think it's nitrogen and phosphorus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are Norwegian farmers taking those samples?
I will say more of my farmers are of those who take out forage samples. It's quite a high amount. At the moment, it's not that big difference in price actually in taking out micronutrients, nutrients, and just quality. So for many, I'm not that. But I think maybe one of the reasons why we saw it in Finland, you have more soil that have a high pH level. In Norway, it's opposite. We have a low pH level, so zinc and manganese is not a big problem in Norway because that's a high pH problem. But of course, I think it could be. But I think when we go this down as we do on phosphorus, I definitely think that could be a problem. But we will see. We have to do our best.
Yeah, for researchers, new tasks.
But
how
it's always,
to overcome
and
this.
I always think it's good to have kind of more overview of all the parameters, definitely.
Good. Yeah?
Yeah, question.
I'm the sheep farmer in my everyday life, so I'm very interested. How do you force Norwegian sheep farmers to measure their yield, or why don't they do that? Maybe they are not linked to this, or it's not the reason, or they have very good dotation, maybe, or maybe prices are too high, and the beef cattle farmers as well. Maybe it's not so important for them.
Yeah, no, I think I have worked mainly with dairy, and I still think they are too bad in finding yield or figuring out the yields. But I think for many, both sheep and beef farmers, as long as they have enough forage for the winter, they're happy. And for many of them, they can't use the areas they have for anything else. It's easier to get a sheep farmer, which is in an area of Norway where you can grow cereals, for example, to go into it, because then you probably can have part of your rotation with cereals. But many of them, they are in areas where you are only growing grass, and if you have enough, then you have enough, and then you are happy, kind of. And I will say it's not the case anymore, but it was the case 5, 6, 7 years ago. Then also the concentrates were, I will say, too cheap. So if they were making too bad silage, but enough of it, not bad in the ways of ensiling quality, but with the too low digestibility, okay, then we feed a little bit more with concentrate. And when the concentrate price went up, then they have been more focused on getting both yields and quality. Yeah. So it's a mixed reasons, as always, I think. Good question.
Ja, veel küsimusi? Kui ei ole, siis veel kord. Suur tänu, Elin. Thank you. A little present. Thank you. Nii, aga suur tänu kõigile, kes pidasid lõpuni vastu. Ma arvan, läks aina huvitavamaks. Ja, et meie projekti poolt siin uudiseid tuleb veel. Et meil sai just hiljuti valmis siis ka jätkusuutliku söödatootmise selline käsiraamat või juhendmaterjal eesti keeles ka, ja hakkame seda ka nüüd levitama, kui nüüd konverentsid kõik siin EPAL läbi on. Et seal on erinevate riikide autorid, erinevad artiklid, et kui mõni ei paku huvi, siis ma arvan, et mõni artikkel kindlasti pakub huvi. Et seda me hakkame kindlasti koja poolt levitama koos Metki ja Maaülikooliga. Siis tänase päeva ettekanded ka kõik saavad olema meie kodulehel üleval, ja samuti kõik ettekanded salvestati, nii et me saame ka salvestused üles panna. Nii, aga siis suur tänu veel kord. Edu söödatootmisel. Ja kui lähete välja, siis palun ärge unustage ära anda kõrvaklappe. Ja kindlasti minge tutvuma messiga. Veel on siin täna homme veel palju huvitavaid infopäevi, seminare, lühemaid toimumas. Ja homme on meil siin siis toimub tõulooma ekspordi teemaline selline konverents. Et see on ka väga huvitav, kes soovib, võib tulla kuulama. Nii, aga suur tänu ja head päeva!